Chapter 181. The End. The surface of the moon was cut open by the Golden Wheel Tensei explosion, leaving a deep crack that extended from Otsutsuki Hiroshiki's position to Seiji's position, but stopped abruptly in front of Okara 10. Although the black daxiation made of yin-yang escape was hit by the Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion and its surface was damaged, the lightsaber of the Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion was still blocked in front of daxiation and could not move forward, as if daxiation was an insurmountable barrier. Impossible. Otsutsuki Hiki, who had forcibly used the Golden Wheel Tensei explosion, let out a desperate wail when he saw that Seiji did not die from this move. At this time, his breath had been weakened to the extreme, and the Golden Wheel Tensei explosion almost drained him dry. Blood kept dripping from the corner of Otsutsuki Hishi's mouth. The strong unwillingness made him hold on to his last breath. Moreover, the connection between the giant Rinnegan and him still existed, so he was not dead yet. Although Otsutsuki Hiki sacrificed everything he had to the giant Rinnegan, if Otsutsuki Hiki immediately cut off the connection with the giant Rinnegan, he could still get some time to survive. However, that was not what he wanted. What he wanted was for Kingsley, whom he considered to be the remnant of the main family, to die. An extremely strong murderous intent emanated from Otsutsuki Hiki. This was his final madness. Suddenly, with a sneer on his face, Kingsley appeared in front of Otsutsuki Hiki and kicked him in the chest. Otsutsuki Hiki wanted to react, but his seriously injured body made his reaction 3 beats slower than before. To put it simply, his brain reacted but his body couldn't keep up. The truth-seeking ball floating beside him slowly flew towards Seiji's body under his control, attacking the enemy while he could save him. However, Kingsley directly used Xiaoming Biguna to shrink his body, easily avoiding the Tao-seeking Jade, which was much slower than the original speed, and then restored his body shape again. Wow! A heavy kick landed on Otsutsuki Hishi's chest, and Otsutsuki Hishi flew backwards immediately, and a large amount of blood spurted out at the same time. Kingji flashed and quickly caught up with Otsutsuki Hiki, who was flying backwards in the air and trying hard to control his body. He kicked Otsutsuki Hiki hard and kicked him high into the air. Otsutsuki Hiki, flying in the air, barely recovered a little bit of his ability to move. He forced himself to squeeze out his last bit of vitality and communicated with the giant Rinnegan again. Inside the Hamura temple, the giant Rinnegan emitted a strange chakra fluctuation, which soon enveloped the entire temple. The remaining people from the Moon Otsutsuki clan branch inside the temple seemed to be confused by the strange chakra fluctuation, and except for a young couple, they all took the initiative to sacrifice themselves to the giant Rinnegan. In order to fulfill Hamura's destiny, a hero like Otsutsuki Hiroshiki had already fallen into a calm but crazy state. The remaining dozen clansmen had already been secretly set up with illusions by him using the power of the giant reincarnation eye. As long as the clansmen who agreed with his interpretation of the will of their ancestor Otsutsuki Hamura were activated by the fluctuations emitted by the giant reincarnation eye, they would directly sacrifice themselves. The other 2 clan members who did not sacrifice were named Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara. They actually did not agree with Hamura's interpretation of the destiny, so they escaped by chance and became the only 2 survivors. These 2 people were the parents of Otsutsuki Tonari, the last descendants of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon in the Naruto world. After receiving the giant sacrificial reincarnation eye, the terrifying energy from the same source as that of Otsutsuki Hiroshiki continued to flow towards him. He seemed to be bathed in a green ocean, and his whole body was covered by green light. This powerful force was like a torrent, instantly filling Otsutsuki Hiroshiki's body, and his breath, which had been exhausted to the extreme, rose again. Although Otsutsuki Hishiki's life was about to come to an end, he still had the power to strike again. With the blessing of this power, Otsutsuki Hiki regained his strength, the truth-seeking ball began to spin again, and a golden light slowly began to appear. Golden Wheel. But how could Kingsley give him another chance? He poured chakra into his legs, then jumped high. As his palms were at the height he was rising, each of them slowly extended a grey bone spur that exuded the breath of death. Ah! Otsutsuki Hiroshiki let out a wail of pain, unwillingness, and despair, and then his body, under the characteristics of bone annihilation, turned into ashes inch by inch and dissipated. As Otsutsuki Hishiki's life breath completely dissipated, the giant samsara eye in the Hamura temple that was closely related to Otsutsuki Hiki suddenly stopped working. At the same time, the huge stone statue of Hamura, which was slowly repairing itself after being affected by the Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion released by Otsutsuki Hiki himself, suddenly had countless cracks on its huge body, spreading like a spider web. Then, these cracks gradually expanded, and eventually led to the collapse of the entire stone statue. Huge rocks fell from the sky and hit the ground fiercely, making a deafening noise. The dust raised filled the air, forming a grey dust fog, making it impossible to see the scene in front of you clearly. While Otsutsuki Hiki and Seiji were fighting fiercely, the battle between the third Mizukage Bing and the second elder Otsutsuki Kazushiki also entered a white-hot state. The second elder, Otsutsuki Kazushiki, can also communicate with the giant Rinnegan, but the degree of compatibility between him and the giant Rinnegan is not very high. Like the third elder, Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki, he can only borrow part of the power of the giant Rinnegan, and this borrowing is only a one-time thing. He cannot resonate deeply with the giant Rinnegan like the first elder, Otsutsuki Hiki, and can constantly get power replenishment from the giant Rinnegan at any time, let alone activate the Rinnegan chakra mode. Therefore, at best, Otsutsuki Kashiki is just a weaker super cage, and he is the kind of super cage whose strength decreases as he uses it, not to mention that he has lost his Byakugan and can only fight using the unique perception method of the Moon Otsutsuki clan. Therefore, with the information provided by Otsutsuki Hamura, it is not too difficult for Ice, who is relatively powerful among the cage level, to fight against Otsutsuki Kashiki. Chapter 182. Bing first used simple physical skills to test the Otsutsuki Kazushiki for a few rounds, and then immediately changed his strategy. Combined with the information provided by Otsutsuki Hamura, Bing now has a rough understanding of the strength of Otsutsuki Kazushiki, who borrowed the power of the giant Samsara Eye, so he directly transformed into a ninjutsu turret and opened fire at full power. Ice escape, ice-breaking flying blade. Densely packed ice blades appeared in front of Bing, flashing with cold light, like a sea of sharp blades. These ice blades gathered together at an astonishing speed, forming a powerful attack force. Then, they suddenly accelerated, like a gust of cold wind, sweeping towards Otsutsuki Kazushiki. Each ice blade carried a deadly threat, as if to cut him into pieces. And this was only the first wave of ice attack. His hands kept moving, changing the seals quickly like a phantom. Just when the ice blade had just flown halfway and had not yet hit Otsutsuki Kashiki, his next ninjutsu was already ready. Ice release, ice spear. With a low shout from Bing, a javelin made of ice appeared in Bing's hand. The javelin exuded a bone-chilling chill, and the tip of the spear was so sharp that it seemed to be able to penetrate everything. Bing held the javelin tightly, and threw it towards Otsutsuki Kazushiki, then threw it with all his strength. The ice javelin flew out as fast as an arrow, aiming directly at Otsutsuki Kashiki. It drew a cold trajectory in the air, making a sharp whistling sound that was deafening. It also caught up with the ice blade that had just been fired in the air and hit Otsutsuki Kashiki first. Otsutsuki Kashiki didn't care. He was so proud that he didn't think the evil people in the ninja world could launch such a powerful attack. Therefore, he simply gathered the chakra in his hands and slapped the ice javelin with contempt. 8 trigrams, mountain pushing palm. However, when Otsutsuki Kazushiki's palm touched the ice javelin, he found that he had underestimated the power of ice ninjutsu. The ice javelin continued to accelerate in the air and had already accumulated a large amount of kinetic energy. Although Otsutsuki Kashiki's palm successfully shattered the ice javelin, the huge impact force brought by the ice javelin made him unable to resist. After only a moment of stalemate, Otsutsuki Kashiki was knocked away by the huge impact force. The next moment, ice blades followed one after another and hit the body of Otsutsuki Kashiki, who was flying backwards in the air, splashing pieces of cold ice flowers. Bing didn't care about the final effect of the attack, because he knew that with Otsutsuki Kazushiki's strength, he couldn't be killed directly by such an attack. Therefore, he continued to make hand seals and chakra was flowing rapidly in his body. Ice escape, double dragon storm kill. 2 huge ice dragons appeared at the same time, one on each side of the ice, and they looked up and roared, making a roar that resounded throughout the castle. The bodies of the 2 ice dragons were huge and majestic, their scales flashed with cold light, and their eyes revealed fierce killing intent. They responded to each other, flying in the air, bringing up a strong storm, and rushed towards Otsutsuki Kazushiki. The air along the way was frozen into ice crystals, and the ground was pitted by ice blocks blown up by the storm. Wherever the ice dragon passed, everything became cold and dangerous. The chakra in Otsutsuki Kazushiki's body burst out violently, like a powerful torrent, instantly filling the entire space. At the same time, on the surface of his body, the golden chakra flames continued to rise like a burning flame, as if to break through the sky. The power of the giant reincarnation eye was pushed to the extreme by him. Otsutsuki Kazushiki quickly mobilized the Samsara Eye chakra to form an indestructible chakra shield outside his body, like a solid wall of steel. This chakra shield successfully withstood the continuous attacks of the ice blade, making a series of crisp impact sounds. Immediately, Otsutsuki Kashiki forcibly controlled his retreating body in the air, and then, alternating his left and right hands, he quickly slapped forward with two palms. 8 trigram spiral slap. The powerful repulsive force repelled all attacks in front of Otsutsuki Kashiki. Otsutsuki Kashiki adjusted his body shape and landed his feet firmly on the ground. A strong murderous aura spread straight in the direction of the ice. Otsutsuki Kashiki's body slowly floated up. He stared at the ice dragon that was about to attack, and the chakra of the Samsara Eye began to gradually gather in his hands. He was ready to use his ultimate move to kill Bing with one move. The power bestowed upon him by the giant Samsara Eye gave him the confidence to do so. Several chakra beads appeared on Otsutsuki Kashishiki's right wrist and then rapidly rotated around his wrist. When the ice dragon was less than 10 meters away from Otsutsuki Kashiki, a silver-white halo appeared on Otsutsuki Kashiki's right hand. As the light flashed, a terrifying aura emerged from it. Silver Wheel Reincarnation explodes. Otsutsuki Kazushiki shouted in a low voice with endless majesty in his voice. He aimed the halo in his hand at the attacking ice dragon. In an instant, a dazzling silver light burst out from the halo, forming a tornado connecting the sky and the earth. The silver tornado rushed towards the two huge ice dragons with the power of destroying everything. At the same time, the surrounding air began to twist violently, as if the entire space was about to be torn apart by this powerful force. In an instant, the blizzard brought by the two ice dragons was completely torn apart by the tornado, and then rolled back to the location of the ice. The ice dragons seemed so fragile in front of this powerful force, their bodies were caught in it, constantly rolling and breaking, and finally turned into countless ice fragments, scattered on the ground. Although this is not the complete version of the Ginza Samsara explosion, after all, Otsutsuki Kashiki cannot reach the level of the Samsara Eye chakra mode, nor can he condense the truth-seeking ball, but this castrated version of the Ginza Samsara explosion that borrows the power of the giant Samsara Eye is still not to be underestimated. The powerful silver tornado, mixed with the blizzard just created by the ice dragon, wrapped the ice in it. The powerful tearing force continued to pull at the ice's body, trying to tear it apart directly. It seems that this is his strongest attack. Bing thought to himself. In his perception, after performing the silver wheel reincarnation explosion, Otsutsuki Kashishiki's aura suddenly weakened. Then, next, it's my turn. Bing clasped his hands together and the chakra in his body exploded instantly, completing a new defense before the ice armor covering his body shattered. Ice Escape, Ice Prison Hall. Chapter 183. A hemispherical ice prison appeared and protected the ice inside. This is an ice escape ninjutsu originally used to trap the enemy, but now it is used in reverse to become a defensive ninjutsu to protect oneself. The ice prison has the nature of a barrier, and it has the function of repairing the damaged parts through the continuous supply of chakra by the operator. If it is used to trap the enemy, it can even have the effect of slowly absorbing chakra. After a long time, the tornado lost the support of chakra and gradually dissipated, revealing the ice prison that was beaten and pitted. Sensing that the outside had returned to calm, Bing also took the initiative to release the ice prison, while keeping his hands in the posture of forming the U-seal. Enough chakra has been accumulated. Try this move. Bing murmured. This is an S-level ice escape that he developed after inheriting the sealing technique from the Uzumaki clan. Ice release, extremely cold ice realm. At this moment, with the ice as the center, the temperature around it began to drop rapidly as if falling into an ice cellar. Strands of crystal clear ice crystals seemed to be born from the void, continuously appearing in the air, and then quickly spreading until it enveloped Otsutsuki Kashishiki's body. Then, these ice crystals continued to expand outward at an astonishing speed. In a blink of an eye, the entire battlefield was covered by this huge ice world created by ice. In the sky, countless snowflakes and ice crystals danced gracefully, which was beautiful beyond words, but also brought endless coldness and murderous intent. Otsutsuki Kazushiki, who had been expressionless all the time, suddenly changed his calm face. He did not expect that this evil man from the ninja world could actually withstand the silver wheel samsara explosion that was performed with the power of the giant Samsara Eye. You know, this is basically a secret level technique of the Samsara Eye. Although he used a weakened version of it with the power of the giant Samsara Eye, it should not be something that the opponent could block. After all, Otsutsuki Kashiki was too arrogant. He had no idea that the ninja world had been developing for thousands of years, and how powerful the current ninjas were. At this time, Otsutsuki Kashiki was a little panicked, and hurriedly wanted to escape, waiting for the great elder Otsutsuki Hiki to come to support him after he eliminated his opponent. He knew clearly how powerful the great elder Otsutsuki Hiki was, and he could not compete with him even with one hand. Therefore, he firmly believed that Otsutsuki Hiki could win the final victory. However, it was too late to escape now. The ice world spread very quickly, so fast that just as Otsutsuki Kashiki was about to make a move, it had already covered the entire battlefield. When the snowflakes brushed past Otsutsuki Kashiki's body, Otsutsuki Kashiki became even more panicked. Every snowflake or ice crystal carried the power of extreme cold and had the ability to freeze anything it touched the moment of contact, even chakra was no exception. Otsutsuki Kashiki noticed this and began to frantically drive away the snowflakes and ice crystals around his body, but the number of these snowflakes and ice crystals seemed endless. Every time Otsutsuki Kashiki consumed a large amount of chakra to dispel a part of it, it would take a long time for it to be replenished. Otsutsuki Kashiki tried hard for a long time, but it was completely in vain. Originally, after fighting with ice for several rounds and performing the Gincha Samsara explosion, Otsutsuki Kashiki had only about half of his chakra left in his body. Now, in order to fight against the ice world, the amount of chakra in Otsutsuki Kashiki's body is declining at an extremely fast rate. Otsutsuki Kashiki wanted to sacrifice himself and communicate with the giant Rinnegan again to gain power, but he was too afraid of death to make up his mind. His hesitation made him lose his last chance to turn the tables. Soon, Otsutsuki Kashiki, whose chakra was exhausted, was frozen in the ice world and had no strength to struggle anymore. Bing looked at this scene with great satisfaction. This newly developed ice escape technique combined with the barrier technique did not disappoint him. However, at this time, his chakra was almost exhausted. Bing took a last look at Otsutsuki Kazushiki who was frozen in countless ice, turned around, and made a seal with both hands. A real man never looks back at the explosion. Ice release, ice explosion technique. Accompanied by a deafening explosion, the second elder of the Otsutsuki clan's branch on the moon, Otsutsuki Kazushiki, was blown to pieces by the third Mizukage, Bing. On another battlefield, Karatagi Yagura was engaged in a bitter battle with the third elder, Otsutsuki Tachibana. Although Otsutsuki Tachibana consumed a lot of chakra due to the use of the divine airstrike and was not in full condition at this time, Yagura had not yet reached the perfect Jinkraki state, and was on par with Otsutsuki Tachibana. Moreover, although Otsutsuki Tachibana is the weakest among the three elders of the branch family, compared to the second elder Otsutsuki Kashiki, who looks down on the ninja world and has strength but no combat experience, Otsutsuki Tachibana is much stronger than Otsutsuki Kashiki in both his understanding of the ninja world and combat experience. Therefore, even though Otsutsuki Tachibana is not in perfect condition now, he is still a very tough opponent for Yagura. After the battle began, Yagura, relying on the three-tailed Isabu in his body, turned into a ninjutsu turret, frantically performing various water-style and wind-style ninjutsu to suppress Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki, but he was always able to dodge or crack it at the lowest cost. So, when Yagura was a little tired after performing dozens of different ninjutsu in succession, and there was a slight pause in the movements of his hands, Otsutsuki Tachibana keenly seized this fleeting opportunity and flaw, instantly bursting out all the chakra in his body, and rushed to Yagura against Yagura's ninjutsu, dragging the battle into a medium and close-distance rhythm that was convenient for Otsutsuki Tachibana to perform physical skills. 8 trigrams empty wall palm. Facing the cutting of the wind style on his body, Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki suddenly pushed out with both palms when he was about 20 meters away from Yagura. The translucent chakra shock wave went straight towards Yagura and arrived in front of Yagura in less than a breath. Yagura relied on the tailed beast coat formed by the three-tailed chakra on his body and wanted to take the attack head-on, so he did not stop the action of forming seals with his hands. However, Yagura, who had not yet participated in the Ninja World War, had no experience fighting against the Hyuga clan's gentle fist. Despite the information provided by Otsutsuki Hamura, he did not take the special nature of the gentle fist seriously. Therefore, although the tailed beast cloak blocked most of the impact force, some of Otsutsuki Tachibana's attack still penetrated the tailed beast cloak and hit Yagura's body. Chapter 184. Yagura, who was suddenly hit hard, staggered back several steps, and the ninjutsu he was preparing was interrupted. Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki was relentless and quickened his pace, moving forward and striking Yagura in the abdomen with another palm. 8 trigrams, spiral rebuke. The repulsive force exploded instantly, and Yagura was spun like a cannonball and was blasted away by Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki's palm. Yagura was spinning and flying backwards in the air, blood constantly oozing from the corners of his mouth, and his internal organs were aching slightly from the 2 attacks. Fortunately, Yagura still has the 3 tails in his body, and the 3 tails chakra is constantly repairing the injuries in his body. If Yagura was just an ordinary ninja, the battle would basically be over after these 2 hits. But there was not enough time after all. Although the 3 tails chakra had recovered some of Yagura's injuries, how could Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki miss such a good opportunity? He accelerated decisively, caught up with Yagura again, and came behind Yagura. A large amount of Samsara Eye chakra continued to gather in the palm of Otsutsuki Tachibana's right hand, emitting a dazzling golden light, and the chakra aura gradually enveloped Otsutsuki Tachibana's entire right arm. God Air Attack. Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki blasted out with his palm, and a giant fist emitting a terrifying aura of chakra hit Yagura's back directly. Yagura knew something was wrong when Otsutsuki Tachibana appeared behind him, because apart from the tailed beast coat, his other means of defense required a certain amount of time to be deployed, and he knew clearly that Otsutsuki Tachibana would not give him time to launch a defense. And when Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki gathered chakra and prepared to use the Divine Sky Strike, Yagura smelled a breath of death. He had personally experienced the power of the Divine Sky Strike not long ago. It was a powerful attack that even Seiji's strongest defensive ninjutsu, the 5-layer Rashomon, could not completely resist. At such a close distance, if he were to be hit in the face by a divine air attack, he would probably be killed on the spot, even if he was the 3 tails Jinchuriki. Yagura desperately mobilized the chakra in his body, trying to adjust his posture, control his body that was constantly flying backwards, and then avoid Otsutsuki Tachibana's attack. But, in the eyes of Otsutsuki Tachibana, Yagura's struggle at this moment was just in vain. Just when Otsutsuki Tachibana's divine aerial attack had been fully charged and was ready to be launched, Yagura's consciousness suddenly and uncontrollably came to a slightly dark space of consciousness. There was a sound of splashing water, and Yagura suddenly panicked. At this critical moment. But he soon realized that he had been to this place before. In the dark space, a few faint lights suddenly emerged, dispelling the darkness. Not far away, behind a big door engraved with a sealing spell, there is a slightly large lake. Along with the sound of splashing water, a huge figure slowly emerged from the lake. It was the 3-tailed Isabu, and this space was also the sealed space inside Yagura's body where the 3-tailed Isabu was sealed. Hey! Is this Yagura, Kuruhi? Before Yagura could speak, the low voice of Sanwei Isabu reached Yagura's ears. Everything Yagura said before was confirmed one by Otsutsuki Hamura. After struggling for a while, Sanbai Isabu finally figured it out when Yagura was facing a fatal threat and was about to die. Although freedom is important, there are too many perverts in the ninja world. I am afraid that even if it can escape the seal, it will be caught and sealed again before long. Moreover, even though the tailed beasts can be resurrected after death, the 3-tailed Isabu does not want to die just like that. Even more, he does not want to be sealed into the body of the Outer Path demon statue in the near future and reintegrate into the 10-tailed, completely losing his life. Even if there is only a slight possibility of this, he does not want it at all. Not to mention, although the 3-tailed Isabu was sealed in Yagura's body for less than 10 days, since Otsutsuki Hamura took the initiative to show up, it also shows to a certain extent that Yagura is at least not an evil person, although Yagura was just an accessory of Seiji and was summoned in by Otsutsuki Hamura. More importantly, the ninja named Otsutsuki Seiji, who once beat it up and now gives it a feeling of extreme danger, is its Jinchuriki, the brother of Karatagi Yagura. You have to know that he is a real Otsutsuki just like the old man 6 Paths and his brother Otsutsuki Hamura. He is not comparable to these scum on the moon. Moreover, Otsutsuki Hamura had just secretly passed on an extremely important message to it, which was that Seiji's Otsutsuki bloodline was already evolving towards the direction of the old man 6 Paths and Otsutsuki Hamura's mother, the legendary ancestor of Chakra, Otsutsuki Kagaya. With such an Otsutsuki protecting it, the three-tailed fox felt that it didn't have to worry so much about the threat of being fused into the 10-tailed fox again. Therefore, from the perspective of the three-tailed Isabu, it is completely acceptable for it to reach a reconciliation with Yagura and become a partner. Moreover, Kiyoshi, who has obtained part of its chakra, should not have any excessive thoughts about it. Therefore, at this moment, Sanwei Isabu, whether voluntarily or forced, has accepted and acknowledged Yagura as its partner for some time to come. Although this was caused by a variety of coincidental factors, at least from the result, it was perfect. I just don't know if Yagura can recognize it from the bottom of his heart and reach a reconciliation with it, Sanwei Isabu. You should have known it from old man Liudeo's younger brother. My name is Isabu. Sanwei Isabu didn't wait for Yagura to answer, and continued to speak on his own, his low voice echoing throughout the sealed space. Yagura was overjoyed when he heard this. He had learned from Seiji that when the tailed beast was willing to take the initiative to tell the Jinchuriki its name, it basically meant that the tailed beast and the Jinchuriki were close to reaching a reconciliation. And at this critical moment, being able to reach a reconciliation with Sanwei Isabu really saved his life. Therefore, Yagura did not wait for Sanwei Isabu to speak, but interrupted what Sanwei Isabu was about to say, and said hurriedly, Isabu. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Yagura, Gaji Yagura. From now on, please give me your guidance. Yagura's tone was a little excited, but that was to be expected. After all, this meant that he was about to become a perfect Jinchuriki. Moreover, he might be the fastest ninja to become a perfect Jinchuriki since entering the ninja village era. Chapter 185. Yagura finished his words without any hesitation, and without hesitation, he placed his right hand on his abdomen while sealing the space and the outside world. It might not be possible to form hand seals and use defensive ninjutsu in time, but at this critical moment, it is more than enough to unlock the Bagua seal set by Kingxi. After all, the key to the seal is in Yagura's own hands. The 5 fingers of Yagura's right hand lit up with light blue chakra at the same time, and then twisted them forcefully in a clockwise direction. Sealing technique, unlocking the 8 trigrams. Click. The sound of the seal being lifted echoed in the hearts of Yagura and Sanwei Isabu at the same time. A complex look flashed across Sanwei Isabu's huge single eye, showing astonishment, joy, and a hint of recognition that passed quietly across his face. It was not until this moment that Sanwei Isabu, who had previously only recognized Yagura out of necessity, truly recognized Yagura from the bottom of his heart. It didn't expect that Yagura would lift the seal so decisively before it could even finish its words. You know, if it was deceiving Yagura, without the suppression of the Bagua seal, it could go berserk at any time and kill Yagura. Sealed space, no, now it should be consciousness space or spiritual space. Yagura's spiritual body or soul body leaped lightly to the top of Sanwei Isabu's head, then sat down cross-legged. Gently stroking the huge head of the 3-tailed beast, the man and the 1-tailed beast that had already reconciled instantly reached a special state of mutual understanding. In the outside world, the moment Yagura broke the seal, an extremely strong crimson-tailed beast chakra emitting a destructive aura continuously emerged from all parts of his body. But soon, he was consciously controlled by the 3-tailed beast, and with a telepathic connection, Yagura quickly knew how to completely use the 3-tailed beast's chakra to transform into a half-tailed beast and a full-tailed beast. Now, having become a perfect Jinchuriki, Yagura is no longer limited to borrowing a small portion of the 3 tails power as before, but can use all of the 3 tails power to fight, and at the same time has the personal help and guidance of the 3 tails Isabu. A crimson chakra whirlwind suddenly rose up around Yagura's body, then completely wrapped up Yagura. The crimson chakra whirlwind exuded a unique, horrifying aura of a natural disaster from the tailed beast, causing Otsutsuki Tachibana, who had already unleashed the divine sky strike, to pause for 0.1 second. As the chakra whirlwind rose, Yagura's body began to change. His skin gradually turned blood red due to the explosion of the 3-tailed chakra, and his eyes became sharp and fierce. The crimson 3-tailed chakra soon covered Yagura's entire body, and then 3 crimson chakra tails grew behind his body, swinging continuously. When the scattered 3 tails chakra was completely controlled, Yagura instantly entered the state of half-tailed beast. Feeling the surging chakra filling his body, Yagura in the half-tailed beast state couldn't help but let out a roar. At the same time, the huge 3-tailed chakra restored Yagura's injured body in an instant, bringing him back to a peak state. The 3-tailed Isabu inside Yagura also let out a roar. The sound was deafening, as if it was going to break through the constraints of the spiritual space he was in. This is a celebration of its escape from the sealed and suppressed state. Even, if Yagura agrees, it can use chakra to transform into a small three-tailed ox and appear in the outside world, breathing in the air with the fragrance and scent of freedom, and experiencing the charm of the ninja world that it has not felt for many years, the breeze and the warmth of the sun. Yagura could already clearly feel the sharpness of the divine airstrike launched by Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki at this time, but Yagura, who had become a perfect Jinchuriki and could fully use the power of the three-tailed Isabu, was no longer as afraid as before. With the joint efforts of Yagura and the three-tailed Isabu, the three-tailed chakra continued to overflow from the body, forming layer after layer of chakra shield. At the same time, Yagura also controlled his three tails, wrapping his body tightly, preparing to deal with the next impact. Everything that just happened seemed complicated, but in fact, it happened in just a short moment. Otsutsuki Tachibana's divine aerial attack finally hit Yagura's body. The power of the giant chakra fist exploded instantly, directly knocking Yagura away, and in an instant, it broke through the countless layers of chakra shields formed by the overflowing three tails chakra. Then, the three chakra tails that wrapped around Yagura's body also lasted less than a breath before being broken through by the Shenkong attack. But it's a good thing that the tail formed in the half-tailed beast state is only made of chakra, otherwise Yagura would have fainted from the pain. Finally, there was the deep red three tails chakra coat that covered his entire body. With the three tails Isabu desperately supplying chakra to repair it, although the divine sky strike, which had been weakened layer by layer, still penetrated Yagura's body in the end, it did not kill Yagura on the spot. For a Jinchuriki, even if he cannot reach the level of a perfect Jinchuriki, as long as the blow is not fatal, he can eventually recover under the effect of the tailed beast's chakra, not to mention that Yagura is already a perfect three tails Jinchuriki at this time. Under the effect of the three tails chakra, Yagura, who was not fatally injured, recovered quickly. A gleam of light flashed across Yagura's eyes. Since you didn't kill me, it's my turn to kill you. Yagura, in the half-tailed beast state, got on all fours and ran towards Otsutsuki Tachibana like a wild beast. 8 trigram spiral slap. Water style, coral palm. The two men struck each other with their palms at the same time. Yagura was pushed away again by the huge repulsive force, but his coral palm also hit Otsutsuki Tachibana. The light red coral quickly spread from Otsutsuki Tachibana's palm to his entire body. Caught off guard, Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki was immediately controlled and unable to move. Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki immediately began to burst out chakra and struggled continuously to break free from the restraints of coral. He already had an ominous premonition. However, the coral palm is a move used in the half-tailed beast state after all, and it uses the power of the three-tailed beast. Although Otsutsuki Tachibana is powerful, he cannot break through the restraints instantly. Although he cannot be controlled for too long, this is enough for Yagura. What Yagura needs is a short period of time when Otsutsuki Tachibana is controlled. Chapter 186. Yagura, who was pushed away by the repulsive force, quickly stabilized his body and landed on all fours. He raised his head slightly and opened his mouth. The yin and yang chakras quickly gathered together, and then continued to mix and compress. A high-density purple-black chakra sphere was suspended in front of Yagura's mouth. Tailed Beast Jade. Without any pause, as soon as the tailed beast ball was condensed, Yagura launched it directly towards Otsutsuki Tachibana. The destructive aura continued to spread, and wherever the tailed beast ball passed, the space seemed to be distorted, and fine cracks continued to appear along the path the tailed beast ball passed. When Otsutsuki Tachibana broke free from the coral that was emitting a red halo, the tailed beast ball was less than 10 meters away from Otsutsuki Tachibana. Faced with the tailed beast ball that was powerful enough to kill him with one blow, Otsutsuki Tachibana did not panic. On the contrary, he was extremely calm at this moment. Unlike the second elder, Otsutsuki Kazushiki, who was timid, the third elder, Otsutsuki Tachibana, knew very well that hesitation would lead to failure. Without any hesitation, Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki directly burned all the Otsutsuki blood in his body and offered a sacrifice to the giant Rinnegan. The tailed beast ball exploded in front of Otsutsuki Tachibana, and the violent explosion instantly enveloped Otsutsuki Tachibana. The powerful impact caused the air to distort, and the surrounding ground was lifted up layer after layer of dust and stones, forming huge pits. However, at this moment, the power of the giant reincarnation eye was transmitted through the air, and a mysterious and powerful chakra surged like a tide. A large amount of reincarnation eye chakra instantly filled Otsutsuki Tachibana's state, and his body quickly recovered, and his breath also returned to its heyday. However, This also means that Otsutsuki Tachibana's life has entered the countdown. The smoke and dust from the explosion gradually dissipated, revealing the cold and ruthless face of Otsutsuki Tachibana. He stood there unscathed, with a hint of contempt in his eyes. The corners of his mouth slightly raised, and he said coldly, "Then. The second round begins." As his voice fell, a powerful momentum burst out from him, and the air around him seemed to be frozen. Yagura did not respond to Otsutsuki Tachibana, but used actions to show his attitude. Just now, the tailed beast ball he sent out successfully forced out Otsutsuki Tachibana's trump card, which made him very satisfied. Moreover, after such a short period of time, he has gradually become familiar with the state of half-tailed beast transformation, and it is time to take a step further. A strong crimson three-tailed chakra was seen pouring out of Yagura's body like a volcanic eruption. When the amount of this chakra reached a certain threshold, the crimson figure of the half-tailed beast disappeared from the spot. In its place, there was an extremely large beast, almost the same size as the stone statue of Hamura, with a hard scale shell covering its body and three thick tails waving behind it. Completely transformed into a tailed beast. Three-tailed Isobutsu. Come on! The three tails. Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki recognized the three tails Isobu at a glance. After all, he was not like Otsutsuki Kazushiki who knew nothing about the ninja world. Then, a trace of anger suddenly appeared on Otsutsuki Tachibana's cold face. Sure enough. It was you evil people in the ninja world who stole the Outer Path demon statue that our clan has guarded for generations. Otsutsuki Tachibana wanted to run away directly. In his opinion, the Outer Path statue and the nine-tailed beasts were a whole, so the three-tailed beast must have a certain connection with the person who stole the Outer Path statue. However, there is actually nothing wrong with what he said, because the Rinnegan, which can summon the Outer Path statue, is currently in the Hidden Mist village, and is indeed in cahoots with Yagura, so it can be considered a lucky coincidence. Yagura still did not respond, but carefully controlled the body of the three-tailed Isobuki, who appeared in the outside world after fully transforming into a tailed beast. However, the difference between his body size and that of the three-tailed Isobuki was too great, and Yagura felt very uncomfortable suddenly controlling such a huge body. Yagura! Let me do it, give your body to me. In the spiritual space, Sanwei Isobu suddenly spoke at this time. Yagura handed over the control of his body to Sanwei Isobu without saying a word. He really was not used to fighting with such a huge body, so he decided to hang up the machine first and let the substitute go online. The three-tailed Isobu took over control of the body and excitedly waved its three thick tails. It finally came out again. Let's set off some fireworks to celebrate. The three-tailed Isobu opened his mouth wide, and the tailed beast ball began to condense quickly. This time, it was not the small-tailed beast ball that he had just used in the half-tailed beast state, but the large-tailed beast ball that he used in the full-tailed beast state. Otsutsuki Tachibana opened his tightly closed eyes and faced the direction of the three-tailed Isobu. His stern face and empty eye sockets made him look a little scary. His empty eye sockets were fixed on the three-tailed Isofu, as if he could see the tailed beast ball that was rapidly condensing. Feeling the terrifying aura that continued to emanate from it, Otsutsuki Tachibana made a decision. Since he was about to die because of the sacrifice, he should fight quickly and decide the outcome with one move. The chakra in Otsutsuki Tachibana's body began to boil, and all the chakra was mobilized by him. A circle of silver halo was faintly visible on his right hand. Tailed Beast Jade. Silver Wheel Reincarnation explodes. The tailed beast ball fired by the three-tailed Isobu No. 1 and the Ginza Tensei explosion, a weakened version of the Magu Dojutsu that was forcibly used by Otsutsuki Tachibana with all his chakra, collided violently in mid-air. At this moment, it seemed as if the whole world had lost its sound. The collision between the tailed beast ball and the Silver Wheel Tensei explosion caused an earth-shattering explosion. The impact of the tailed beast ball explosion was like a giant bomb, instantly releasing endless energy, setting off a powerful shock wave that swept everything around. The Silver Wheel Tensei explosion was like a huge storm, and the storm tornado it produced had the power to destroy everything, and it collided violently with the shock wave of the tailed beast ball. The collision of these two forces made the entire castle tremble. They collided with each other, generating a huge impact force, causing the surrounding space to begin to distort and deform, as if it was about to be torn apart. Black cracks spread across the space, emitting a frightening aura. A mushroom cloud rose up, dust flew, smoke filled the air, and the entire battlefield became chaos. Suddenly, a blood-covered figure was thrown out from the smoke like a kite with a broken string, and blood kept flowing out of his body. It was Otsutsuki Tachibana. Chapter 187. The silver wheel reincarnation explosion just now had exhausted almost all of Otsutsuki Tachibana's chakra, leaving him with no energy left to resist the following attack. If it weren't for the powerful vitality bestowed upon him by the Otsutsuki bloodline, he would most likely have been killed by his own ninjutsu. At this time, Otsutsuki Tachibana had completely lost his previous calmness and composure. His body was covered with scars, his face was as pale as paper, and his breath was so weak that it seemed that it would stop at any time. His eyes were full of astonishment and unwillingness, as if he couldn't believe that he would suffer such a terrible defeat. Sanwei Isabu looked at the figure of Otsutsuki Tachibana who broke through the smoke, and a bloodthirsty look flashed in his huge single eye. It arched its entire body, with the huge thick shell on its back wrapping its entire body, and rolled quickly towards Otsutsuki Tachibana like a wheel. Ninjutsu, Shadow Caress. The three-tailed wheel bounced twice on the ground, and then rushed straight towards Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki who was in the air and unable to control his body at an astonishing speed. Crack! The wheels of the three tails rolled over Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki head-on in the air. With a creepy sound of bones being crushed, his body seemed to lose its support and floated limply in the air like a piece of rag. Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki slowly fell like a broken leaf, and finally, with a plop, he fell heavily to the ground, making a dull sound and raising a cloud of dust. Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki was knocked unconscious by the combination of punches from the three-tailed Isofu and the tailed beast ball Kakajifu. He passed out, and his body, covered with wounds all over, lay motionless on the ground, breathing more than he was breathing out. As time went on, Otsutsuki Tachibana's vital signs became weaker and weaker, and eventually he stopped breathing completely. The third elder of the lunar Otsutsuki clan branch died in this fierce battle, and was killed by the freshly formed two-man team of Yagura and Mitsui Isabu. After the battle, Sanwei Isabu returned the control of his body to Yagura. After a moment, Sanwei Isabu's huge body disappeared and Yagura landed steadily on the ground. After casually putting the tattered body of Otsutsuki Tachibana into the sealing scroll, Yagura headed towards the battlefield where he sensed ice. When Yagura rushed to Bing, Bing was meditating to restore his chakra, and his battle with the second elder Otsutsuki Kazushiki had ended. Sensing Yagura's arrival, Bing slowly turned his head in the direction Yagura was coming from. Yagura was also very happy. As expected of Lord Mizukage, he ended the battle so quickly. Both of them were delighted that the other was safe and sound. Then, Yagura put his hand on the shoulder of Bing, who was sitting cross-legged in meditation to restore his chakra, and transferred some of the three tails chakra to Bing. Soon, Yagura and Bing, who had recovered himself, prepared to go to support Kingxi. They could all sense that in the distance, two extremely powerful chakra auras were constantly colliding. One of them was Kingxi. And in their perception, Kingxi had already fallen into a disadvantage, was caught in a tough battle, and was struggling to hold on. Just as they walked out of the castle that had been beaten to pieces by the battle between the two of them, a terrifying chakra aura that was extremely depressing and frightening suddenly came from the battlefield on the surface of the moon. This aura seemed to come from the abyss of hell, making people shudder. Then, a brilliant golden light flashed by, as fast as lightning across the sky. Wherever the golden light swept through, the sky and the earth instantly cracked, and the cracks spread, forming huge gullies. Even the castle inside the artificial sun where they were just now was not spared. It was cut directly in the middle, and the entire castle was completely reduced to ruins. This sudden change shocked the two men. They looked in the direction where the terrifying chakra aura came from, and couldn't help but quicken their pace, their hearts filled with worry about Kingxi's condition. After a while, when Bing and Yagura rushed out of the artificial sun and reached the ground, everything fell silent, and no more fluctuations were heard. This also means that the fighting on the battlefield over there has ended. Bing and Yagura paused in their steps and carefully released their perception again, eager to confirm the result. When they sensed the familiar breath, they all breathed a sigh of relief at the same time, and their hearts were immediately relieved. Although they all had confidence in the value of CG, the Otsutsuki certified by Otsutsuki Hamura himself, the suffocating and terrifying attack they had just seen and felt was really frightening. The two men breathed a sigh of relief and slowed down their pace to provide support. There were no problems with Kingxi anymore, so they didn't need to worry. On the surface of the moon, the boiling Otsutsuki blood in Kingxi's body gradually calmed down. He took the initiative to stop the performance of the blood-burning technique, and his pure eye was closed at the same time. Who? 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 Kingxi bent down and took deep breaths. With the end of the blood-burning technique, Kingxi's breath plummeted. Kingxi calmed down and silently sensed his own condition after the war. He frowned slightly, then quickly smoothed his brows. His Otsutsuki bloodline had slightly degraded under the dual effects of the burning blood technique and the ash bone technique. Both of these desperate secret techniques were developed based on the corpse bone bloodline of the Kagaya clan. Although Kyoji possessed the Otsutsuki bloodline of a higher level and with a higher concentration, and logically speaking, no matter whether it was the single burning blood technique or the ash bone technique, the side effects would be completely eliminated by Kyoji's Otsutsuki bloodline, and at most he would enter a weak period that would take some time to recover. However, with the simultaneous use of these two techniques, the Otsutsuki bloodline in Kyoji's body inevitably experienced a slight regression. After all, the Otsutsuki bloodline in Kingxi's body has not yet evolved to the level of a complete Otsutsuki. If his Otsutsuki bloodline reaches the level comparable to the six-path sage Otsutsuki Hago Romo or Otsutsuki Hamura, then there will be no so-called side effects for these two techniques. However, this is not a serious problem. The giant reincarnation eye is about to be obtained. With the giant reincarnation eye, it can completely make up for the insignificant blood loss and even go further. Chapter 188. After calming down, Kingxi passed through the deep pit created by the explosion of the silver wheel reincarnation and returned to the underground space again. Then, outside the ruins of the Otsutsuki castle inside the artificial sun, he met up with the third Mizukage Bing and his little brother Yagura who were already waiting for him there. "Are you okay?" Bing asked, sensing Kingxi's listless breath. Yagura, who was standing by, looked at Kingxi, who was in tatters and looked rather disheveled, and also gave him a concerned look. Although they knew that Kingxi had won the final victory, they still couldn't help but feel a little worried. "No problem." Ching Si spoke up to reassure the two of them, and then he didn't hide anything, smiled and said directly, "It's just the sequelae of the secret technique, you will recover soon." However, this was just Kingxi's words. The actual situation was indeed quite dangerous. If one was not careful, one could die. Otsutsuki Haze-Hiki injected almost all of his chakra and forcibly borrowed the power of the giant Rinnegan to use the Golden Wheel Rinnegan explosion, whose power was infinitely close to the strength of the Six Paths level. If it weren't for Kingxi's final inspiration to use the yin-yang escape creature such as Ukaten to block in front of him and defeat magic with magic, then Kingxi would most likely have been dragged down by Otsutsuki Haze-Hiki and died together. This is an attack that has reached the edge of Six Paths level power, and I'm not kidding. So, I still have to say here, thank you to my old friend Otsutsuki Haze-Hiki for the Daikokyuden. However, there was really no need to tell Bing and Yagura about this. The battle was over, and the final winner was Otsutsuki Cg. That was enough. Saying more would only increase their worries. "Let's go. Mizukage-sama." Yagura. Cg exhaled softly and signaled to the two, "It's time to reap the harvest." "Yet." Bing nodded, followed Kingxi's steps, walked to his side and stood side by side with him, then asked, "I have an idea." "Kingxi, you already have the ability in time and space. So after you control the giant reincarnation eye, is it possible to change the location of the space channel originally opened in the Land of Fire or simply open up a new space channel?" Ching Si hesitated for a moment, then said uncertainly, "It should be possible to change it, right?" As soon as his thoughts turned, Ching Si instantly understood what Bing meant, so he asked directly, "Lord Mizukage, do you want to change the space channel to the Hidden Mist Village?" Bing nodded. "I don't think it should be a big problem. It may be a little difficult to open up a new channel between the ninja world and the moon. After all, the distance is too far. I think it may require the strength of the Six Paths level. However, correcting the position of an existing space channel should be possible with the blessing of the giant Samsara Eye." When Kingxi saw Bing nod, he knew that he had guessed his idea correctly. The younger brother Yagura realized what Kingxi and Bing were talking about at this time, and said hurriedly, "Isn't that great? The Otsutsuki clan on the moon are no longer a threat to us. After the space channel is opened in the Hidden Mist Village, the moon can belong to us." Kingxi rolled his eyes at Yagura. How come this little brother, who was usually very smart and quick-witted, was so slow to react at this moment? Could it be that he was affected by the three tails in his body? Oh, right. Yagura suddenly remembered something and took out a sealing scroll from his ninja tool bag like offering a treasure. Lord Mizukage. Brother Seiji. Here. After saying that, he handed the sealing scroll in his hand to the two of them. Bing took the seal scroll and was a little confused, wondering what Yagura was up to. Ching Si, who was standing next to him, seemed to have guessed something, and a gleam of brilliance flashed across his eyes. Bing input chakra and opened the sealed scroll. White smoke dissipated and the broken body of Otsutsuki Tachibana appeared in front of the three people. Kingji looked at the body of Otsutsuki Tachibana and couldn't help but feel excited. It was just as he expected. In the battle between the three, Otsutsuki Haze Hiki, who was fighting against Seiji, was hit by the ash bone technique and turned into ashes. Otsutsuki Kazushiki, who was fighting against Bing, was also blown to pieces by the power of the ice explosion technique. Only Otsutsuki Tachibana Shiki, who was fighting against Yagura, ended up leaving his body behind. There was also a hint of realization in Bing's eyes. Although the corpse of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon was broken, it was still intact overall. It was an excellent experimental material. Taking it back to the village for experiments should bring good results. After sealing Otsutsuki Tachibana's body again, Bing handed the scroll to Kingji. After all, his surname was Otsutsuki, so it would be better to give it to Kingji for safekeeping. Kingsi took the scroll and threw it into the Takamaji Ehara space. The first thing now was to receive his giant Rinnegan as soon as possible. The three of them remained silent as they followed Kingsi closer to the location of the Hamura temple. During the battle just now, Kingsi had already located the Hamura temple where the giant Rinnegan was stored, and he had also confirmed that the strong sense of summoning he felt in the ninja world came from the giant Rinnegan that was almost 100% compatible with him. Based on the information provided by Otsutsuki Hamura, Seiji deduced the truth as to why he could feel the call of the giant Samsara Eye at that time. It can be said that everything is the best arrangement of fate. That day was the time for the annual visit to the Hamura shrine, and when Seiji arrived in the Land of Fire, the branch of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon happened to open the barrier of the Hamura shrine. So, everything was connected in a logical way. Kingsi, who happened to come to the Land of Fire, happened to feel the special aura that was transmitted along the space channel from the giant reincarnation eye in the Hamura temple that was opened at that specific time. Everything is just right. The three of them came to the Hamura temple and looked at the tall and majestic temple in front of them that exuded a solemn atmosphere, and they couldn't help but reveal a look of emotion. Ching Si opened his pure eyes and carefully observed the barrier covering the temple. He then poured his pupil power into his eyes. Invisible waves continued to emanate from them, and the space in front of him was constantly distorted. The originally transparent barrier appeared in front of the three people in a distorted state, and then shattered with a loud bang. With the inheritance of the Uzumaki clan in his hands and the powerful insight of the pure eye, Ching Si instantly found the weak point of the barrier, and then used the space-time ability of the pure eye to break the barrier with one strike. The barrier set up by the Otsutsuki clan branch on the moon could not stop Kingji at all. Chapter 189. At the same time, in the ninja world, the Land of Water, the Hidden Mist Village. Black Zetsu, who obtained some information about Seiji from Kagaya Musashi, is sneaking around in the Hidden Mist Village, continuing to investigate Seiji's growth trajectory. At this point in time, the strongest fighting force of the Hidden Mist Village, the third Mizukage Bing, the Three Tails Jinchuriki Yagura, and our protagonist Otsutsuki Seiji, are all gone. However, since the three of them were in the Mizukage's office and were directly teleported away through Seiji's eye technique Takamagahara, no one else knew about this except the master and Ken. At this time, Black Zetsu did not know that he had missed a great opportunity to test Kyoji's secret, and similarly, Kagaya Musashi would not know that he had missed the only chance for a coup that could have been successful. When the terrifying aura of the Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion erupted on the moon, Black Zetsu in the Hidden Mist Village also raised his head as if he sensed something, and then he saw the fleeting dazzling golden light. Black Zetsu was stunned. After 1,000 years, he clearly felt the breath of his mother Kagaya Otsutsuki again, although it was only for a brief moment. Mother! Kingsi took the lead and stepped into the Hamura temple. As soon as he entered the Hamura temple, he sensed the two undisguised chakra auras inside the Hamura temple that were similar to those of the three elders of the Moon Otsutsuki clan branch, and he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. We learned from Otsutsuki Hamura that there are only a dozen or so people left in the Otsutsuki clan on the moon. The three leading elders have been killed by them. The rest are probably ordinary clan members who are hiding somewhere and pose no threat to them. I didn't expect to meet two of them in the Hamura shrine. It has to be said that the barrier of the Hamura temple is still very effective. Before the barrier was broken, even CG, with such a strong perception ability, was unable to detect the existence of the lunar Otsutsuki in the Hamura temple. Moreover, if Kingxi had not used the pure eye to track back and locate the Hamura temple when he borrowed the power of the giant Samsara eye from the three elders, it would have been difficult to find the location of the Hamura temple simply by relying on perception. A very subtle trace of murderous intent flashed across Qing Shijing's eyes, and then disappeared in an instant. Although he promised Otsutsuki Hamura that he would leave seeds for the Otsutsuki clan on the moon if possible, it also depends on whether the other party is sensible. Those who know the times are heroes. On the contrary, those who do not know the times can only destroy them. However, King Ji also had some doubts. Since there were two moon Otsutsuki here, where did the other Otsutsuki go? Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara in the Hamura temple already knew that their clan was a complete failure when their members were forcibly controlled by Otsutsuki Hei's Hiki to be sacrificed. However, they were both sad, but not to a particularly great extent, because they were the few branch family members who survived the civil war and did not agree with the distorted will of their ancestor, Hamura. And this was also the reason why they were able to escape the control of the great elder, Otsutsuki Hiroshiki. With the power of the giant Rinnegan, Otsutsuki Hei's Hiki injected the Rinnegan chakra into the bodies of all his tribesmen in the form of illusion. When he needed, he could use illusion to control his tribesmen at any time, and then sacrifice the giant Rinnegan to gain powerful power. All of this was done in secret. Therefore, in order to prevent being discovered by his clansmen, Otsutsuki Hei's Hiki could only set the content of the illusion so that anyone who, like him, agreed with Hamura's destiny to destroy the ninja world would directly sacrifice themselves to the giant Rinnegan after the illusion was activated. Therefore, only Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara, two members of the tribe who did not really agree with Otsutsuki Heishiki's extreme ideas, were able to survive by chance. In the original official novel The Last, Otsutsuki Tonari's father left a will before his death, asking Tonari to forget the fate of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon and give up the destiny of Hamura, and to go to the ninja world, meet friends, find companions, and live for himself. So, whether it is a dying man's words of kindness, or as a father hoping that Tonari can have a good life, at least Otsutsuki Tonari's father is definitely not the extreme diehard of the branch family. At the moment the barrier was broken, the two looked at each other. They were ready to face the judgment of fate. Kingji and the other two soon met Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara, who had no intention of hiding, and learned from them the whereabouts of the remaining members of the Otsutsuki clan branch on the moon. After hearing this, the three of them couldn't help but sigh. As the chief elder of the branch family, Otsutsuki Terashiki was indeed a hero. In order to fulfill his misinterpreted destiny, he treated his own clansmen so cruelly. Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara looked a little nervous as they waited for the verdict from CG and the other two. It was not that they had not thought about resisting, but the gap in strength was too big. They had lost their Byakugan and could not borrow the power of the giant Samsara Eye. Facing the three elders who could defeat and kill them using the power of the giant Samsara Eye, it could be said that they had no chance of winning. The three of them looked at the two lunar Otsutsuki in front of them, and each other. Their expressions were a little complicated. These two can now be regarded as the only remaining descendants of the lunar Otsutsuki clan. It is a pity to kill them like this. Moreover, these two have completely different ideas from other diehards, so it is possible to subdue them. Not to mention, CG also promised Otsutsuki Hamura that he would try his best to give the Otsutsuki clan on the moon a way out. In the end, Bing and Yagura turned their attention to Kingxi. After all, they were Kingxi's nominal clansmen, so it was better for Kingxi to make the decision. After pondering for a moment, Kingxi shook his head, closed his eyes, and walked inside. Bing and Yagura did not move. They knew that CG was going to receive the giant Samsara Eye, and they could not help much, so they just stayed where they were and guarded the two moon Otsutsuki. Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara's expressions tensed. They didn't know what Kingxi meant by shaking his head. Drops of cold sweat broke out from their foreheads and then kept sliding down. Looking at the two people who were a little flustered, Yagura thought for a moment and explained, "You two. Congratulations on surviving." After hearing Yagura's explanation, Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Garo suddenly felt relieved and collapsed to the ground powerlessly. Just now, they really thought they were going to die. Without the barrier of the barrier, as the distance between Kingxi and the giant Samsara Eye got closer and closer, the feeling of summoning became stronger and stronger. Kingxi couldn't help but feel excited in his heart. After all, that was a giant Rinnegan formed by the gathering of all the Byakugan and all the blood power of almost the entire Otsutsuki clan on the moon. When Kingxi passed another bend, the giant Rinnegan, shining with a soft but extremely dazzling golden light, appeared in front of Kingxi's eyes. Chapter 190. Kingxi raised his head slightly, looking at the giant Rinnegan in front of him, feeling the terrifying chakra fluctuations that continued to spread around, and his heart was filled with a hot feeling. At this moment, Kingxi's eyes unconsciously changed into pure eyes, and the feeling of summoning also reached its peak. Kingxi came in front of the giant Samsara Eye, and the corpse bone vein was activated, forming layers of bone stairs under his feet, which kept lifting him up. Then Kingxi decisively stretched out his hands and touched the giant Samsara Eye directly. This giant Rinnegan, formed by the fusion of the branch of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon, was placed under a protective ban. If a ninja other than the Otsutsuki Hamura bloodline touched it, all of his chakra would be sucked away. Although Kingxi's bloodline has evolved, it is undeniable that the basis of Kingxi's bloodline's ancestral return is the bloodline of the Kagaya clan, who are descendants of Otsutsuki Hamura, just like the Otsutsuki clan on the moon. Therefore, this bloodline restriction is ineffective for Kingxi. As Kingxi touched the giant Rinnegan, a strong resonance occurred between his pure eye and the giant Rinnegan, and they became restless at the same time, and then shone brightly. The golden and aqua blue lights complemented each other, reflecting the entire Hamura temple. It's begun. Bing and Yagura's faces turned serious when they saw the strange scene in Hamura temple. Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara on the side changed their expressions slightly, but soon calmed down. Now they have not escaped the status of prisoners yet, and they can only survive by relying on others, so they can't do anything. After a while, the pure eye and the giant Samsara Eye calmed down at the same time, no longer as agitated as before. Through the pure eye, Kingxi could clearly see the pairs of white eyes floating and flowing inside the giant Samsara Eye. After pondering for a moment, Kingxi communicated with the giant Rinnegan, and then the golden Rinnegan chakra began to gather in the palm of his right hand. 8 trigram spiral suction palm. With the help of the Rinnegan chakra, Kyoji used the move used by Otsutsuki Haze Hiki. A slight gravitational force appeared in the palm of Kyoji's hand, and then gradually increased, sucking out the 2 pairs of relatively pure Byakugan that Kyoji had locked onto from the inside of the giant Rinnegan. These 2 pairs of Byakugan were prepared by him for Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara. Since he had made up his mind to let them go and bring them under his command, he would definitely strengthen them. After all, in Kingxi's opinion, they were pitifully weak without their Byakugan. The fact that the lunar Otsutsuki clan could not separate the Byakugan that had been fused into the giant Samsara Eye did not mean that Seiji could not do it. With the gift from Otsutsuki Hamura and the blessing of his own pure eye, plus Seiji's own perfect compatibility with the giant Samsara Eye, it was easy for him to separate 2 pairs of Byakugan. So, will Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara, who have regained their Byakugan, pose a threat to Seiji or the Hidden Mist Village? The answer is of course no. As for the Rinnegan, that is even more impossible. The blood of these 2 people cannot even resonate with the giant Rinnegan. Even if they were given 2 pairs of Byakugan that were much purer than their original Byakugan, it would still be impossible. According to Otsutsuki Hamura, if one wants to awaken the Rinnegan, both the strong Otsutsuki bloodline and the pure Byakugan are indispensable. However, Kyoji is not the kind of unprincipled goody-goody. Although he finally chose to abide by the agreement between him and Otsutsuki Hamura, let the moon Otsutsuki go, and plan to let the 2 of them recover their strength or even have greater strength than before, this does not mean that he will relax his vigilance against them or not take any precautions to prevent their betrayal. Moreover, Kingxi, who was about to absorb the power of the giant Samsara Eye, had enough confidence that he could keep the 2 of them under control. He casually took out 2 glass bottles from the Takamagahara space and put away the 2 pairs of Byakugan respectively. Then Kingxi waved his hands and formed a slightly strange special seal. Along with the special seal formed in Kingxi's hands, the chakra of the reincarnation eye and the giant reincarnation eye and Kingxi's own chakra began to establish a stable connection and channel, and the power contained in the giant reincarnation eye began to be continuously transmitted into Kingxi's body. Below the cemetery of the main family of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon, the soul of Otsutsuki Hamura emerged. His gaze penetrated through layers of barriers and looked from afar at Seiji, who was absorbing the power of the giant Rinnegan. A gentle smile appeared on the old face. Otsutsuki Hamura was very satisfied with what Kyoji did. He gently waved the black tin staff in his hand, and then Otsutsuki Hamura disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he appeared beside Kyoshi. Kingji sensed the appearance of Otsutsuki Hamura and turned his gaze to the soul of Otsutsuki Hamura floating in the air. He was slightly startled and gently bowed to signal him. Otsutsuki Hamura waved his hand, "Kid. You did a great job. Let me help you." In fact, Otsutsuki Hamura should not have appeared originally. Forcibly manifesting his soul body in the world without any help is also a heavy burden for a 6 paths level strongman like Otsutsuki Hamura. After this time, I'm afraid he will have to sleep for a long time again. However, Kyoji did complete his request perfectly. Not only did he prevent the branch family's conspiracy from distorting the will he left behind, but he also left the seeds of revival for the Otsutsuki clan on the moon. More importantly, he saw in Kyoji a completely different path from his mother Kagaya Otsutsuki and his brother Hago Romo Otsutsuki. Therefore, he was very willing to give his junior a strong push behind him. Chapter 191. Kagaya Otsutsuki's idea is actually very simple. As the ancestor of chakra, all the chakra in the ninja world comes from her. She does not believe that those weak humans can gain power beyond her through continuous practice. Therefore, in order to deal with the people of the Otsutsuki clan who are stronger than her and may come to hunt her down at any time, she needs enough troops, that is, white Zetsu, to protect her and her 2 children. As for the 6-path sage Otsutsuki Hago Romo, he believes that chakra is not only a force that connects people, but also a bond that connects people's hearts. Mutual trust and mutual help between people are the fundamental forces that can make human beings truly powerful. He deeply believes that if everyone can live in peace and understand each other, the power that can be unleashed will far exceed that of him or even his mother Otsutsuki Kagaya. To this end, he allowed his 2 sons, Indra and Ashura, to reincarnate continuously, just to achieve that slim possibility of reconciliation, and finally gather the strength of all the people in the ninja world to jointly deal with the threat of the arrival of the aliens. Otsutsuki Hamura actually did not agree with his brother Otsutsuki Hagoromo's actions, but he also loved the ninja world deeply, and he had the more important responsibility of guarding Otsutsuki Kagaya and the seal of the outer path demon statue, and at that time he had no better choice. After months of fierce fighting, the 2 brothers finally managed to seal their mother, Kagaya Otsutsuki, who was not good at fighting. So, how powerful would the outsiders be, who would scare them with their mother's strength? At that time, after learning the truth, Hago Romo Otsutsuki and Hamura Otsutsuki also fell into panic about the outsiders. But now, Otsutsuki Hamura saw in Seiji a completely different path from the ones taken by his mother Otsutsuki Kagaya and his brother Otsutsuki Hago Romo. Seiji, who only inherited part of his bloodline, currently has the possibility of concentrating all the great power in himself. The atavism in Seiji's body and the Otsutsuki bloodline gifted by Otsutsuki Ishiki are more advanced than his and his brother Otsutsuki Hagoromo's Otsutsuki bloodline. Because of their special birth methods, the bloodlines of the 2 brothers are restricted by the world of ninja and have reached a peak, with no possibility of further improvement. But Seiji is different. Seiji's Otsutsuki bloodline has even evolved towards the direction of Otsutsuki Kagaya or the real Starry Sky Otsutsuki clan. In other words, Seiji has broader possibilities, and his future is much brighter than that of Otsutsuki Hamura. And Otsutsuki Hamura has also confirmed that, at least for now, Seiji is a person who can be entrusted with the future. Therefore, Otsutsuki Hamura decided to help Seiji walk his own path and bet the future of the ninja world on Seiji, which could be considered a willful act on his part. These thoughts flashed through Otsutsuki Hamura's mind. The black tin staff in his hand pointed at the giant Rinnegan, and Otsutsuki Hamura's eyes also switched from Byakugan to Rinnegan at the same time. With his free left hand, Otsutsuki Hamura simply formed a sub-seal. Kyoji suddenly felt something different. With the help of Otsutsuki Hamura, the power contained in the giant Samsara Eye continued to flow into Kyoji's body at an extraordinary speed. The efficiency was dozens of times higher than Kyoji's own absorption just now. Moreover, with the help of Otsutsuki Hamura, the absorption of the power of the giant Samsara Eye did not cause any discomfort to Kyoji himself. The power that entered his body and was filtered by Otsutsuki Hamura quickly combined with Kyoji's own power without any sense of lag. The small part of Kyoji's bloodline that was lost in the battle with Otsutsuki Hishi was replenished in an instant, and then Kyoshi's Otsutsuki bloodline began to slowly and steadily improve with the help of the power of the Samsara Eye. At the same time, the amount of chakra in Kingsi's body began to increase, driven by his blood. As Kingsi continued to absorb the power of the giant Samsara Eye, his body gradually began to break through the constraints of gravity and float in the air. This is the true power of the Otsutsuki clan. Whether it is Otsutsuki Ishiki who was absorbed by Seiji, or Otsutsuki Kagaya, as well as Otsutsuki Hago Romo and Otsutsuki Hamura, they can all float in the air and have the ability to fly. Seiji knew about this from Otsutsuki Ishiki's memory, and he had coveted this ability for a long time, but his Otsutsuki bloodline had never met the standards before. Now, Seiji can finally fly with his own ability. Suddenly, Kingsi's body floating in the air shook slightly, and the conjunctiva of his eyes began to switch back and forth between the black of the pure eye and the white of the Samsara Eye, and his eyeballs also began to flicker back and forth between water blue and sky blue. As time went by, the sky blue light of the Samsara Eye stayed in Kingsi's eyes longer and longer. Kingsi felt an incomparably comfortable and refreshing feeling at this moment, a feeling that could not be described in words, as if his soul had been sublimated at this moment. Since you have already consumed so much, it doesn't matter if you have a little more. I will help you again. Otsutsuki Hamura said at this time. Immediately, Otsutsuki Hamura's Rinnegan and giant Rinnegan lit up at the same time. With his extremely powerful yin-yang escape technique, he restored all the damage caused to the moon by the recent battle in an instant. Although traces of the battle still exist, the part of the moon that was cut by the Golden Wheel Tensei explosion, the castle and artificial sun that were affected, and the underground space that was pierced by the Silver Wheel Tensei explosion have all been repaired by Otsutsuki Hamura. It can be said that Otsutsuki Hamura gave Seiji an intact moon. This act, which could be described as a miracle, deeply shocked Bing, Yagura, Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara, who were able to sense the movements outside. At this moment, Kingsi was impacted by the power that kept pouring into his body. He was unable to make any movements and could only express his gratitude to his ancestor Otsutsuki Hamura in his heart. Otsutsuki Hamura didn't care either. He seemed to be able to hear the words of gratitude in Kingsi's heart. He nodded at Kingsi, then turned into light spots in the sky and disappeared. However, before he disappeared, he threw a memory ball to each of his two descendants. This could be considered as removing one of Kingsi's worries and allowing them to get along better. Chapter 192. The spiritual power that Otsutsuki Hamura had accumulated over thousands of years that could be used to interfere with the real world was consumed at once. Not only that, even a part of his own spiritual power was lost. However, this is also Otsutsuki Hamura's own choice. He is betting his future on Seiji. Finally, he turned his gaze to the ninja world he loved deeply, and then looked at the center of the moon with guilt. Otsutsuki Hamura fell into a deep sleep, unable to perceive the outside world. Otsutsuki Hamura, who forcibly appeared and interfered with the present world, will need some time to recover even if his strength has reached the 6 paths level, and he will not wake up again in a short time. Time keeps passing. If there were other people here at this moment, they would see that the light emitted by the giant Samsara Eye was gradually dimming, and at the same time, the aura and power emanating from Kingsi were becoming stronger and stronger, which meant that the original power contained in the giant Samsara Eye was being continuously absorbed by Kingsi. Suddenly, at a certain moment, Kingsi's body suddenly exuded an extremely terrifying aura, accompanied by a strange and mysterious chakra fluctuation that spread to the surroundings and the entire Hamura temple. A gorgeous sky blue halo suddenly rushed into the sky, and the dazzling light was dazzling, as if it was going to pierce the dome of the Hamura temple. At this moment, the entire Hamura temple seemed to be illuminated by the bright sky blue halo, and endless light sprinkled in every corner. The people waiting in the front hall of the Hamura temple couldn't help but squint their eyes, trying to adapt to the strong light. Of course, this did not include the third Mizukage Bing. After all, Bing had been familiar with observing the outside world through perception for many years, and most of the time he closed his eyes. When everything returned to silence again, the giant reincarnation eye in front of Kingsi, which was originally shining with golden light, had completely dimmed. Moreover, if you spread your perception over, you will find that the power originally contained in the giant reincarnation eye has completely dissipated, and was completely absorbed by Kingsi with the help of Otsutsuki Hamura. Ching Si, who was floating in the air, had already closed his eyes when the brilliant sky blue light burst out. When Kingsi opened his eyes again, his eyes had changed. His sky blue pupils kept shining and sparkling. Exactly, the same samsara eye as Otsutsuki Hamura. Trample. 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 From deep within the Hamura shrine, there was a very rhythmic sound of footsteps, and Bing and Yagura were immediately alerted, and their eyes immediately turned over, waiting for King C's arrival. The third Mizukage Bing had already opened his eyes, with a strange look in his eyes. Although he had seen Otsutsuki Hamura's samsara eye in the spiritual space, after all, Otsutsuki Hamura, a mythical figure, was still too far away from him. Therefore, he was very curious and looking forward to whether CG could awaken his own samsara eye. King C stood in front of several people, sweeping his sky blue samsara eye over them. Although King C did not use any pupil power and simply looked at Bing, Yagura and others in front of him, they could still clearly sense the feeling of oppression coming towards them, and even felt as if their souls were trembling under the power of the samsara eye. When the three-tailed Isabu and Yagura saw Seiji's Rinnegan shining with sky blue light, he couldn't help but get excited. He made the right bet. This was an eye of the same level as the old man's Rinnegan. Although the Rinnegan that Seiji has awakened now is still somewhat inferior to Otsutsuki Hamura in terms of feeling, the door to the supremacy has been opened after all. As long as Seiji is given some time, Sanbai Isabu has no doubt that Seiji can surpass Otsutsuki Hamura. After all, Seiji's Otsutsuki bloodline is purer. With such a big boss protecting him, Sanwajio now feels that his choice is extremely wise and his future days will be extremely safe. King C shifted his gaze to Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara, staring at the two calmly, his sharp gaze piercing straight into their hearts. Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara, who were directly facing the Rinnegan, could still feel Seiji's gaze, and could clearly feel the power of the Rinnegan, even though they had no eyes. Their minds could not help but tremble violently under the gaze of the Rinnegan, as if they were about to be seen through by Seiji. Only when you face the samsara eye directly can you truly feel the power of this eye, which is also known as the Eye of God. Lord Kiyoshi. Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara both lowered their heads at the same time and bowed respectfully to Kiyoshi. The two people who had already listened to the teachings of their ancestor Otsutsuki Hamura were now extremely respectful to Kiyoshi, who had been recognized by their ancestor. Ancestor Hamura has appointed you as the new chief of our Otsutsuki clan. The two men said shockingly, revealing Otsutsuki Hamura's decision, and asked us to follow you, so you can send us at any time. King C was silent. He didn't expect that Otsutsuki Hamura would solve such a problem for him before falling asleep. Under the gaze of the samsara eye, King C could tell that the two people in front of him were not just pretending to be nice to him. On the contrary, what they said were truly from the heart. Well, since these two Otsutsuki have surrendered sincerely, there is no need for Seiji to use any more means to control them. So he directly took out the two pairs of Byakugan that he had just separated from the giant samsara eye from the Takamaji Ehara space. Yes. King C nodded, agreeing to the two people's words of following him, and at the same time accepting the identity of the patriarch of the Otsutsuki clan. However, there will no longer be any Moon Otsutsuki clan in the future, and there will be no such thing as a main family or a branch family. There will only be the Otsutsuki clan of the Hidden Mist Village. Then, King C handed two pairs of Byakugan to Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara respectively. These are Byakugan that were re-separated from the giant samsara eye. Judging from their purity, they should belong to the patriarch or elder of the main family that you wiped out. From now on, these will be your eyes. Chapter 193. Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara respectfully took the glass bottle from Seiji, with excitement on their faces. They didn't expect that they would receive such a big gift just after following the new clan leader who took office. Although they have a unique way of perception and the lack of eyes does not affect their daily life and actions, who would refuse if they could embrace the light again? Not to mention, after regaining their Byakugan, they will be able to unleash their original strength, and even with the blessing of higher purity Byakugan, they will be able to unleash even more powerful strength, and will be able to better serve King C, the new clan leader. Change it now. King C said lightly. Yes. After hearing King C's words, the two of them did not hesitate at all. They took out the white eyes from the glass bottle at the same time and put them directly into their eye sockets. Blood continued to flow from the corners of their eyes. King Si looked at the decisive actions of the two and nodded with satisfaction. It seemed that these would be two very good subordinates. King Si stretched out his hands and touched the eyes of the two people at the same time, and light green Yangtun medical chakra emerged from his hands. That's right, after absorbing the giant reincarnation eye, Kingxi learned medical ninjutsu without a teacher. In an instant, the blood that had been constantly flowing out of their eye sockets was controlled. After simply rolling their eyeballs, Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara regained their sight. Bing and Yagura on the side looked at the magical scene in front of them and could not help but be amazed. They did not expect that it would not be long before Kingxi learned and mastered medical ninjutsu. The two could only sigh once again at the powerful ability of the Rinnegan. Let's go. This trip to the moon can be said to be perfect. Kingxi turned his head and spoke to Bing and Yagura with a smile on his face. Although there were some minor obstacles and troubles during this trip to the moon, in the end, judging from the results and gains, these minor problems were insignificant. Yes. The third Mizukage Bing exclaimed. Yagura also nodded and said, Brother Kingxi is right. At this time, Otsutsuki Tenshin suddenly spoke, and at the same time took out a sealing scroll and handed it to Kingxi, master clan leader. This is the body of the clan member who was controlled by Otsutsuki Heishi and forced to sacrifice. Kingxi's footsteps paused suddenly. This was good news. He originally thought that the corpses of the Otsutsuki had been reduced to ashes due to their lack of strength and forced sacrifice, but he didn't expect that they were collected by Otsutsuki Tenshin. Reaching out to take the sealing scroll, Kingxi nodded slightly at Otsutsuki Tenshin, as a token of affirmation of his behavior. After all, these Otsutsuki corpses were indeed very useful to him. Although the blood levels of these corpses were not high enough and the blood in their bodies had basically been sacrificed to the giant Rinnegan, at least they were considered to be from the Otsutsuki clan and could at least satisfy the craving of his little 10 tails. Soon, they left the Hamura temple and came to the Otsutsuki castle in the center of the artificial sun. There were various collections accumulated by the Otsutsuki clan on the moon for thousands of years, which needed to be brought back to the Hidden Mist village. So, under the guidance of Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara who had already surrendered, the few people dispersed in pairs and went to different parts of the castle to collect the things they needed to bring back to the Hidden Mist village. Ching Si, on the other hand, went to the main hall, ready to use this time to sort out his gains. After the awakening of the Samsara Eye, Kingxi naturally gained all the abilities of the Samsara Eye. However, these abilities are actually limited at present. Although with the help of Otsutsuki Hamura, CG absorbed all the power of the giant Rinnegan into his body, these powers are too powerful compared to the power CG himself possesses. Therefore, he needs a long time to digest them before he can completely transform the power of the giant Rinnegan into his own power. Moreover, the pure eye that CG possesses is derived from the Byakugan. Although it is at the same level as the Byakugan, it is indeed more powerful. Therefore, the Rinnegan awakened based on the pure eye is naturally more powerful than the Rinnegan possessed by Otsutsuki Hamura. To make an analogy, Otsutsuki Hamura's Rinnegan is roughly on the same level as the ordinary Samsara Eye, while Seiji's Rinnegan is on par with the Megatama Samsara Eye. Of course, what is meant here is the Rinnegan that is fully mature and developed to the extreme, not the Rinnegan that has just awakened like Kingxi's current one. According to the information about the Rinnegan provided by Otsutsuki Hamura, the Rinnegan needs to go through a total of 3 movements from awakening to maturity. When Otsutsuki Hamura awakened the Rinnegan, he was already a 6 paths level strongman, and his Byakugan and his Otsutsuki bloodline had reached the peak of what he could achieve. Therefore, the time of Otsutsuki Hamura's fetal movement after awakening the Rinnegan was exceptionally short, only less than a day. However, this does not apply to Kingxi. The level of his Rinnegan is higher than that of Otsutsuki Hamura. Therefore, although CG completed the first fetal movement as soon as he awakened under the power of the giant Rinnegan, the other 2 fetal movements will still require a very long time. CG estimates that this time will take about 6 years. However, when the 3 fetal movements are completed and the Rinnegan matures, CG will naturally possess the strength of the 6 paths level. And thanks to his Rinnegan, which is integrated with the power of the giant Rinnegan and is much stronger than the ordinary Rinnegan, he can be considered a strong one even among the 6 paths level. It is hard to say whether he can be on par with the 6 path sage Otsutsuki Hago Romo, but at least he will not be weaker than Otsutsuki Hamura. The chakra in Kingxi's body began to flow slowly, and blue-green chakra flames rose from his body, like a burning flame, enveloping his entire body. Then, the chakra flame spread rapidly, like a thin layer of mist, tightly wrapping Kingxi's body. As time went on, the chakra flame became more and more intense, as if it was going to completely devour Kingxi, and Kingxi's aura also increased dramatically in the process. Suddenly, an extremely powerful chakra wave spread out from Kingxi's body. This wave swept around like a storm, and King C's aura also changed dramatically, exuding an awe-inspiring majesty all the time. His eyes shone with sky-blue light, and rich blue-green chakra flames burst out from his body. King C's body also began to float slowly. It was the Samsara Eye chakra mode. The 4 people who were collecting and organizing the information left by the Moon Otsutsuki clan in various places in the castle were startled when they sensed this powerful aura, but then they recognized the owner of this aura. They knew that CG might be experimenting with the ability of the Samsara Eye, so they paused for a moment and then continued. Chapter 194. King C floated in the air, feeling the powerful force surging in his body. Suddenly, King C looked behind him as if he had sensed something, and saw a number of pitch-black spheres slowly emerging from the void and hovering behind him. It is the truth-seeking ball that was born under the Rinnegan chakra mode. Moreover, King C could clearly sense the close connection between him and these truth-seeking jades. Recalling the information that Otsutsuki Hamura had said about the Samsara Eye's chakra mode, CG knew that the truth-seeking jewel that was being born before his eyes was merely a degraded version of the truth-seeking jewel. Neither in size nor in power could it be compared with the truth-seeking jewel produced by the Six Paths Senjutsu or the truth-seeking jewel that was produced autonomously at the level of the Kekki network. Perhaps the only thing worth mentioning is that this degraded truth-seeking orb produced under the Samsara Eye chakra mode can break the limit of 9. However, with this degraded version of the truth-seeking ball as a reference, and the method taught by Otsutsuki Hamura of condensing the truth-seeking ball by fusing the 7 attributes of chakra, King C believed that it would not be long before he could have his own real truth-seeking ball. After all, I learned from Otsutsuki Hamura that the power of the Rinnegan ability performed using a normal truth-seeking jewel and the Rinnegan ability performed using a degraded version of the truth-seeking jewel are worlds apart, and there is no comparison at all. Therefore, since King C has the opportunity to create his own real truth-seeking jade, he will definitely not miss this opportunity to enhance his own strength. After all, whether in the ninja world or in the universe, strength is the foundation of everything. The information given in the official Book of Formations shows that the black spheres around Otsutsuki Tonari are not the truth-seeking jade, but special chakra beads similar to the truth-seeking jade. However, Otsutsuki Tonari can indeed use those chakra beads to change their forms to defend against ninjutsu attacks, and in terms of performance, they are exactly the same as the 6 Paths Obito in the 4th War. Therefore, I can only understand that this thing produced by the Samsara Eye chakra mode is a degraded version of the truth-seeking jade, which is much smaller in size and power than the normal truth-seeking jade. In addition, the Book of Formations defines the truth-seeking jewel as a ninjutsu, not the bloodline net that transcends the bloodline limit and bloodline elimination. Although the prerequisites for both the truth-seeking jewel and the bloodline net are to master the changes in the nature of the 7 attributes of chakra and to fuse them, the two are indeed not the same thing in the official definition. Kaguya Otsutsuki's inflated truth-seeking jewel is a move that belongs to the bloodline net. Among all the characters in the Naruto world, only Kaguya Otsutsuki and Hago Romo Otsutsuki are officially defined as having the bloodline net. It is speculated that this is because both of them have the 10 tails. From this perspective, it is extremely difficult to synthesize the bloodline net with one's own abilities. The art of listing shows that Hamura Otsutsuki, who is also at the 6 paths level, relied on his own abilities to finally condense the same 9 truth-seeking jades as Hago Romo Otsutsuki. This is also shown in chapter 680 of the manga, but even such a powerful Hamura Otsutsuki could not achieve the bloodline net. King C slowly fell back to the ground, and the chakra around his body began to converge continuously. The chakra mode of the Samsara Eye dissipated under King C's control, and the degraded truth-seeking jades surrounding him also began to slowly dissipate. After all, his Rinnegan had only completed 1 fetal movement. Before the 3 fetal movements were completed, it was not appropriate for him to use the power of the Rinnegan too much. Some conventional abilities were fine, but if he used the Rinnegan chakra mode, King C could vaguely feel that for every minute he stayed in the Rinnegan chakra mode, the time of his next fetal movement would be delayed by 1 day accordingly. So, it seems that this is not worth the loss. However, in today's ninja world, except for that old man, there should be no supersized enemies that force King C to use the chakra mode of the Samsara Eye. Therefore, the problem is not very big. At most, it just takes a few more years to wait. Anyway, King C does not plan to implement his plan immediately. After a moment, everything returned to calm again. But sudden, King C felt an inexplicable fear and uneasiness, as if an invisible force was gradually eroding his consciousness and body. He tried to struggle, but to no avail. His soul began to float uncontrollably, and a dark space crack quietly emerged. It was like a bottomless black hole, emitting a frightening breath. The crack opened silently, and then a powerful suction force suddenly burst out, sucking Kingxi's soul into a strange space. Ching Si was at a loss, and everything in front of him became blurry. He tried to resist, but he felt as if his soul was frozen, and his soul, body and mind had lost control. When he finally regained some consciousness, he found that he had entered a completely different place. This space was extremely silent, without a single sound. Endless darkness filled the air, making Kingxi's soul feel depressed and suffocated. Moreover, this darkness was not ordinary darkness, but a darkness that could swallow up all light, causing people to constantly feel fear. Kingxi's face looked very bad at this moment, and his heartbeat began to accelerate rapidly. He already had some extremely bad guesses. With his current level of strength after absorbing the power of the giant Samsara Eye, even Otsutsuki Hamura would not be able to summon his soul so easily without his permission. Chapter 195. Child. My child. At this moment, a woman's voice suddenly came from a distance, as if coming from the distant sky, but seemed to be very close. Her voice was soft and low, like a breeze gently brushing past the ears, but it also had a chilling chill that made people shudder. This voice was as gentle as a noble saint, but also had a special gloomy feeling, as if it was a curse coming from the depths of hell, which made people shudder. Hearing this whisper-like voice, Kingxi felt an immense chill in his heart that instantly surged up. He already had some guesses about the owner of this voice. On the moon, there is probably no one else who can suck his soul into this special space without any resistance, except Otsutsuki Kagaya, who ambushed Otsutsuki Ishiki and ate the chakra fruit of the sacred tree. Ching Si, in the soul state, felt as if facing a formidable enemy. His entire soul was tense, and his pupil power was constantly poured into his reincarnation eyes, trying to see through this space. But unfortunately, the Rinnegan, which was said to be invincible by Otsutsuki Hamura, could not see anything, and there was still endless darkness in front of him. This feeling. Is it Hamura? The woman's cold voice sounded again, but this time, it was extremely clear, as if it was right next to Kingxi's ear. Having just absorbed all the original power from the giant reincarnation eye, Kingxi's body now had an extremely rich blood and chakra aura that was highly similar to that of Otsutsuki Hamura, which led the woman to misjudge. Who is it? Kingxi shouted, his chakra burst out instantly, and the Samsara Eye chakra mode was instantly activated. After awakening the Samsara Eye, Kingxi is already able to exert his strength in the state of a soul body. Although he already had some guesses in his heart, he was not completely sure about it after all. No. This is not Hamura. The woman reacted quickly, and this time, her voice seemed to come alive. It was no longer cold, but carried a hint of imperceptible emotion. And this subtle emotion, to Kingxi, sounded a bit like resentment and a bit like anger. The sound of veins bulging reached Kingxi's ears, and Kingxi instantly felt a gaze locking onto him, piercing deep into his soul, seeing through his soul. Kingxi was not unfamiliar with this sound of bulging veins. He could even say that he was very familiar with it. After all, in his memory, Otsutsuki Ishiki used it frequently. It was the sound of the Byakugan opening. This finally confirmed Kingxi's guess. Although he had not seen her true appearance yet, with such powerful strength, coupled with the Byakugan and the knowledge of Otsutsuki Hamura, the identity of this woman could only be Otsutsuki Kagaya. This blood aura. The woman continued to speak, but suddenly paused. Then the emotion in her words suddenly changed, and there was an indescribable fear and panic in her tone. Otsutsuki Ishiki. As soon as the words fell, there was a ray of light in this space. A new moon rose slowly in the sky, and an inexplicable aura continued to spread outwards. When Kingxi heard the name of Otsutsuki Ishiki, he felt something was wrong. You know, there is an irreconcilable hatred between Otsutsuki Ishiki and Otsutsuki Kagaya. Otsutsuki Kagaya mistook him for Otsutsuki Ishiki, and you can imagine how she would react. He inherited everything from Otsutsuki Ishiki, and his initial bloodline evolution came from Otsutsuki Ishiki's gift. Therefore, there are indelible traces of Otsutsuki Ishiki on Seiji's body. It is no wonder that Otsutsuki Kagaya would mistake him for Otsutsuki Ishiki. After all, the Otsutsuki clan has the unreasonable reincarnation ability of wedge. The crescent moon hanging high in the sky began to rotate continuously. A black dot appeared in the center of the crescent moon and then quickly grew larger. Then, the black spots began to spread outward, and finally formed 3 black rings on the surface of the crescent moon. Then, black megatama appeared on the rings. As time went by, when the 9 megatama were evenly distributed on the 3 circles, the black dots, circles, and megatama finally formed a mysterious pattern. Then, an extremely dazzling scarlet light burst out in an instant. This red was not a bright blood red, but a deep, restrained dark red, like coagulated blood. This scarlet light enveloped the entire space, appearing particularly gloomy and terrifying. This is the Eye of the Moon, also known as the 9 Megatama Samsara Sharingan. Under the scarlet light, a vague figure emerged faintly. The outline of her body was unclear, but it gave people a strong sense of oppression. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, and under the reflection of the moonlight, it was like a dancing flame, flashing a scarlet light, like a demon from the depths of hell, revealing endless indifference and majesty. When he saw this figure, Kingsley felt that his whole soul froze and his breathing became rapid. This is it. The ancestor of Chakra. The Almighty God. The legendary goddess of the moon. Kaguya Otsutsuki. I have a strange question. The six-path sage Otsutsuki Hago Romo married and had 2 sons, Indra and Ashura, after sealing Otsutsuki Kaguya. Therefore, Otsutsuki Kaguya should not know Indra and Ashura, and should not even know their names. However, after Otsutsuki Kaguya was resurrected in Uchiha Madara's body, she did not communicate with Black Zetsu, but immediately recognized Indra and Ashura's chakras in Naruto and Sasuke through her Byakugan, and accurately called out Indra and Ashura's names. So, is this a bug? And not only that, Otsutsuki Kaguya was able to tell the name of the ninja clan founded by Otsutsuki Hago Romo after she was sealed, and knew the title of ninja, so how did she know it? Can anyone give me a reasonable explanation? I am so confused. Chapter 196. Kingsley's heart had sunk to the bottom at this moment. Only when you face Kaguya Otsutsuki directly can you feel how powerful she is. Moreover, this is Otsutsuki Kaguya who lost the 10 tails. It is really hard for Kingsley to imagine how powerful Otsutsuki Kaguya would be after taking back the 10 tails. At least, from Otsutsuki Ishiki's memory, even if Otsutsuki Ishiki was in his peak state, he would not be a match for Otsutsuki Kaguya who had eaten the chakra fruit and had the 10 tails. And such a powerful Kaguya Otsutsuki was actually sealed by her 2 sons, the brothers Otsutsuki Hago Romo and Otsutsuki Hamura, after months of fierce fighting. It can only be said that Kaguya Otsutsuki really lacks combat experience. She has great power but cannot fully exert it 100%. Of course, this is also because she only wants to take back the chakra scattered on her 2 sons and does not want to hurt them. After all, Kaguya Otsutsuki really loves her 2 sons. But how could she get here directly without passing the seal? Could it be that the aftermath of the Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion caused a hole in the seal? This should be the most likely scenario. After all, the complete version of the Golden Wheel Tensei explosion can easily cut the moon in half. Even if Otsutsuki Hiki used a weakened version of the Golden Wheel Tensei explosion, its power is likely to have a certain impact on the seal inside the moon. The scarlet moon eye emitted a dazzling white light in the air. The originally dark space suddenly became bright, and the figure of Kaguya Otsutsuki also became real in Kingji's eyes from vague. The terrifying chakra aura echoed throughout the space. Kaguya Otsutsuki slowly floated towards Seiji's position, and as she got closer, Seiji finally saw her appearance clearly. In his previous life, Seiji had seen Kaguya Otsutsuki's appearance in a video, and in this life, in Otsutsuki Ishiki's memory, he had also seen Kaguya Otsutsuki's appearance, but these are just memories after all, and cannot be considered real. It was at this moment that Seiji truly saw the true appearance of Kaguya Otsutsuki for the first time. He has a head of soft blue-white hair that is longer than his entire body and drags down behind him like a waterfall. On both sides of his forehead, there are 2 long horns. He wears a white robe with black megatama patterns, which is the symbol of the Otsutsuki clan. His eyes are the Otsutsuki clan's iconic Byakugan, which is currently open. In the center of his forehead, there is a Rinnegan, which represents the consumption of the chakra fruit, and the pattern is exactly the same as the full moon in the sky. She is like an unreachable mountain, towering above the clouds, overlooking everything in the world. Her beauty is as bright as the stars, which makes people feel awe. Her hair shines like the Milky Way, gently brushing against her snow-white skin, as if telling of her holiness. Her eyes are like the deep starry sky, shining with mysterious light, making it impossible to peek into her inner world. Her existence seemed to transcend the boundaries of time and space, exuding an indescribable majesty and holiness. Her every move and every expression was filled with a high and sacred aura that made people dare not even think of profaning her. Kaguya Otsutsuki stared at Seiji with an expressionless face. The veins on her face that were bulging due to her Byakugan did not destroy her noble and sacred face. Instead, it gave it a strange beauty. To be honest, if it were a different time or place, perhaps Kyoji would relax and appreciate Kaguya Otsutsuki's goddess-like face and beauty. But, at this moment, if possible, Kingxi just wanted to turn around and run. Being mistaken for Otsutsuki Ishiki, who has a mortal feud with Otsutsuki Kaguya, could be fatal. But, unfortunately, he couldn't run away at all. He didn't even know how to leave this strange space. Kyoji forced himself to stay calm. His primary goal now was to get Kaguya Otsutsuki into a state where she could communicate with him. Perhaps because she had been sealed for too long, Kaguya Otsutsuki was not so conscious at the moment and was still in a somewhat dazed state, acting solely on her instincts. When the seal was destroyed by the Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion and a tiny crack was created, Kaguya Otsutsuki subconsciously released a trace of power from the crack in the seal. Then she was attracted by the obvious Otsutsuki aura of Seiji, and subconsciously used Yomi Hirasaka to force Seiji's soul into her space. In fact, Kaguya Otsutsuki certainly wanted to pull Kyoji directly into the seal, so that with Kyoji's help, she would be able to break the seal in no time. But unfortunately, she is unable to do this now. She can only rely on the dual suppression of life level and strength to invite Kingxi's soul into her original ball space. Kaguya Otsutsuki came in front of Kyoji, stretched out her right hand, and directly pinched the neck of Kyoji's soul. The power of the Rinnegan was directly activated, and the chakra in Kyoji's body was suddenly like a flood that had been opened, and was madly sucked into Kaguya Otsutsuki's body. A breath of death filled Kingxi's heart. He struggled hard to say something, but because Kaguya Otsutsuki had his throat tightly grasped, he couldn't say anything. As chakra and eye power were continuously absorbed by Kaguya Otsutsuki, Kyoji's struggles became weaker and weaker. Soon, Kyoji's eyes regressed from the Rinnegan to the pure eye, and then from the pure eye back to ordinary eyes. His eye power dried up. But at this moment, the chakra and eye power of Seiji that were absorbed by Kaguya Otsutsuki, after entering Kaguya Otsutsuki's body, seemed to have unlocked some kind of restriction or seal in Kaguya Otsutsuki's body. A memory appeared out of thin air in Kaguya Otsutsuki's mind, and Kaguya Otsutsuki's eyes slowly turned from confusion to clarity. Looking at Seiji who was restrained by her, a hint of joy flashed in Otsutsuki Kaguya's eyes, and a gentle look appeared on her face, no longer with that arrogant feeling just now. Kyoshi. You, finally, came to pick me up. Kaguya Otsutsuki slightly opened her cherry-like red lips, with an indescribable happiness in her tone, but the words she said surprised Kyoji so much that he was stunned. He could understand every word that Kaguya Otsutsuki said, but why couldn't he understand when they were put together? Chapter 197. However, immediately afterwards, Kaguya Otsutsuki seemed to have noticed something. Her expression suddenly became gloomy, and her tone became much lower. I see. You are not yet. The time is not yet up. As Kaguya Otsutsuki finished her words, the chakra and eye power that had just been absorbed by Kaguya Otsutsuki surged back into Seiji's body again. Then Kaguya Otsutsuki loosened her hand that was strangling Seiji's neck, and at the same time took the initiative to restrain the chakra aura that was bursting out. Feeling the renewed strength, Kingxi couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The pressure from Kaguya Otsutsuki just now was too much for him. The samsara eye opened again, and Seiji carefully looked at Kaguya Otsutsuki in front of him. Although he still didn't understand what Kaguya Otsutsuki meant, nor did he know what kind of connection he had with her that she didn't know about, Seiji knew that he was safe. What do you mean by what you just said? After confirming his own safety, Kyoji took the initiative to ask Kaguya Otsutsuki. Kaguya Otsutsuki, who had recovered a very long memory that she had sealed away on her own initiative, looked at Seiji quietly, with a barely perceptible smile and love in her eyes, but she did not answer Seiji's question. Now is not the time. However, since the Kingxi in front of her was not the Kingxi she was waiting for, then this meeting should end. After all, the little bit of power she had transmitted through the crack in the seal was about to be exhausted, and the tiny crack in the seal had been repaired by Otsutsuki Hamura when he used the power of the giant Samsara Eye to restore the moon that was destroyed in the battle. Kaguya Otsutsuki looked at Seiji deeply again, then waved her hand gently at Seiji. The Rinnegan in the center of her forehead lit up slightly, and Yomi Hirasaka was activated, pushing Seiji's soul lightly into the black space portal. Kiyoshi. I will always wait for your arrival here. Kaguya Otsutsuki's words full of affection reached Kiyoshi's ears before Kiyoshi entered the space portal. Kingxi's heart skipped a beat again. This was the second time that Kaguya Otsutsuki called out his name. If it was the first time, it might be that Kingxi heard it wrong, but this time, Kingxi heard it very clearly. From Kaguya Otsutsuki's words, it can be learned that it is obvious that Kaguya Otsutsuki should know him, but Kaguya Otsutsuki has no intention of clearing up his doubts. Now that he is about to return, there is no chance to explore the relationship between him and Kaguya Otsutsuki. Kingxi's soul returned to his body. Now he was full of doubts and confusions, but he could not get any answers. After a long time, Kingxi suppressed his chaotic thoughts and decided to focus on the present. After all, from the information whispered by Otsutsuki Kaguya, it can be known that the time has not come yet. Although he doesn't know what time Otsutsuki Kaguya is talking about, it is not a problem that needs to be considered now. Moreover, Kingxi could vaguely feel that after Otsutsuki Kaguya regained consciousness, her attitude towards him was a little special, because in Otsutsuki Ishiki's memory, he had seen Otsutsuki Kaguya's attitude towards other Otsutsuki clan members, and the two were simply worlds apart. The chakra in his body slowly began to converge and eventually became completely silent. Kingxi then sat down again. He was ready to sort out his thoughts for the next period of time. At the same time, Kaguya Otsutsuki transmitted a trace of power from the seal to the outside world and met Seiji. In the endless starry sky of the universe, there are two bright and dazzling rays of light crossing the starry sky at an astonishing speed. From a distance, they look like two shining meteors across the empty starry sky, but if you have strong insight, you will be surprised to find that these two rays of light are not actually meteors, but two figures wrapped in powerful chakra, crossing the starry sky at an extremely fast speed. If Kingxi were to look at the appearance of these two figures, he would find them very familiar, as they were dressed in the standard style of the Otsutsuki clan. They all have strange horns growing on their foreheads and wear luxurious-looking white robes, exuding a mysterious, noble, and sacred aura. Suddenly, the two figures galloping in the starry sky suddenly stopped. They stood quietly in the starry sky and cast their eyes in a certain direction. At the end of that direction was the planet where the ninja world was located. Jinshi. The shorter figure spoke with a somewhat arrogant tone and an indescribable cold feeling. Lord Momoshiki. It's Kaguya's breath. But it doesn't seem very complete. The tall and strong man named Kanashiki bowed and responded respectfully, with a hint of doubt in his tone. Humph. Ishiki and Kaguya have lost contact with the tribe for 1,000 years, and they haven't handed in their sacred tree fruits as required. Otsutsuki Momoshiki curled his lips in disdain and continued arrogantly, Kinshiki. Remember this direction. After we complete the task of collecting fruits this time, we will go and see what's going on with these two people. The tribe has asked us to be responsible for finding their whereabouts. Yes. Lord Momoshiki. Otsutsuki Kinshiki replied respectfully again, but do I need to inform Lord Urashiki? Otsutsuki Momoshiki looked at Otsutsuki Kinshiki coldly, then a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he said meaningfully, of course not. Kinshiki. You have to know. There are fewer and fewer planets suitable for growing the sacred tree, and the yield of chakra fruit is getting lower and lower. If Ishiki and Kaguya are safe, that would be the best. And if something happens to them, then we will be responsible for bringing the 10 tails back to the family. Otsutsuki Momoshiki continued, his tone suddenly taking on a barely perceptible heat. However, if something happens to them, and they have already planted the sacred tree, but the chakra fruit is not yet ripe. Otsutsuki Momoshiki did not continue speaking, but Otsutsuki Kinshiki had already understood the implied meaning behind his words. The clan has already made clear the requirements of the mission. All proceeds from this mission will belong to the person who completes it, and the clan will not have any additional demands. Therefore, such a good thing certainly cannot be informed to Otsutsuki Urashiki. Although Otsutsuki Urashiki was also the person assigned by the clan to find Ishiki and Kaguya's whereabouts, who knows what the situation is like on the planet where the ninja realm is located. Maybe Otsutsuki Momoshiki will have a chance to get a chakra fruit. Moreover, no matter what, it is better to monopolize a planet where the sacred tree can be planted than to share it with Otsutsuki Urashiki. However, although Otsutsuki Momoshiki did not say it explicitly, he knew very well in his heart that something must have happened to Otsutsuki Ishiki and Otsutsuki Kagaya, otherwise they would not have contacted their family once in 1,000 years. I understand. Lord Momoshiki. Otsutsuki Kinshiki had no objection. As the guardian of the two-person team, he only needed to protect Otsutsuki Momoshiki. As for the rest, Otsutsuki Momoshiki, as the protected one, could make the decision. Very good. Kinshiki. Otsutsuki Momoshiki nodded slightly, revealing a satisfied look, then let's go. First, go collect the chakra fruits that have matured this time and bring them back to the clan, and then set out to find Ishiki and Kagaya. Yes. Lord Momoshiki. Chapter 198. The collection of the Moon Otsutsuki clan is extremely rich. As Bing and Yagura continued to organize these collections, they realized that as long as they applied this knowledge to the Hidden Mist Village, it would not be long before the Hidden Mist Village's strength would be able to leap to a higher level as a whole. It is hard to say whether it can surpass Konoha Village, but at least it should not be weaker than Konoha Village. However, after asking Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara, they discovered a problem, that is, the puppet fragments they had collected before were actually useless. After all, that kind of fully automatic puppet technology was achieved through the power of the giant Rinnegan and was not universal. The giant Rinnegan is now gone, sucked clean by CG. They can't go back to the ninja world and ask the Hyuga clan to make another giant Rinnegan just for this mediocre puppet technique. Otsutsuki Castle. The four people who acted separately have completed their sorting of the collections left by the Otsutsuki clan on the moon, and have sorted them all out with sealing scrolls, ready to take them back to the Hidden Mist Village. Let's go. It's time to go back. The third Mizukage Bing said, looking at Kingxi and asking Kingxi if there was anything else that needed to be dealt with. Well, let's go back to the village. Kingxi thought for a while, then responded that it was time to end this trip to the moon. Soon, the group of 5 arrived at the space passage back to the ninja world. Kingxi turned his gaze to the third Mizukage Bing. Mizukage-sama. Is the location of the space channel going to be opened directly in the Hidden Mist Village? The third Mizukage Bing pondered for a moment and decided, well, let's open it in the village. Let me think about where exactly it should be opened. Of course it has to be opened in the Mizukage building. Yagura said without even thinking. As soon as these words were spoken, Bingen was silenced. Little brother, do you see the question mark above my head? When you see it, it's not that I think there is something wrong with me, but I think you may have some problems. After hearing this, Kingxi was completely speechless. It seemed as if a question mark slowly emerged above his head. He looked at Yagura fixedly. Little brother Yagura, do you want to listen to what you are saying? You really have the guts to open a space channel directly in the Shuiying building. Not to mention whether changing the location of the space channel in the Land of Fire and transferring it to the Mizukage building will cause any damage and impact to the Mizukage building. Just the area required to house the space channel is not small. After all, this is a space channel to the moon. Although it is not that far away from the planet where the ninja realm is located, it is still an interplanetary transmission after all. Moreover, the moon will be built into a new mist village in the future, or to put it in a broader sense, a new water kingdom. In other words, there will definitely be a lot of people traveling back and forth through the space channel in the future. Not to mention, the Mizukage building is the office of the village leader and can be said to be the political center of the entire Kirigakure village. There are also many secrets inside that cannot be made public. How could anyone be allowed to enter and exit at will? It's as if anyone can enter and exit the daimyo's palace at will. Therefore, from various perspectives, it is not realistic to open a space channel in the Shuiying building, or even near the Shuiying building. As for the space channel itself, Kingxi actually didn't care whether it would be exposed, because he was now confident that he had overwhelming strength. After absorbing the giant Samsara Eye, the level of his bloodline has reached and exceeded that of Otsutsuki Hago Romo and Otsutsuki Hamura, and is even evolving towards a higher level. The moves that originally required the consumption of bloodline power or had a negative impact on bloodline power now no longer have any restrictions. Moreover, the ability of his pure eye has also been greatly enhanced. The speed and power of his eye techniques are infinitely close to that of Otsutsuki Ishiki, not to mention that he also possesses the Rinnegan, which has great potential and is not yet fully mature. The future is expected. If I were to sum it up in a simple sentence, it could be said that above the 6 paths, I am one for one, below the 6 paths, I am invincible. Seeing Bing and King C staring at him, Yagura quickly realized that there seemed to be something wrong with what he had just said, so he could only laugh foolishly at the two of them, trying to cover it up. Bing sighed helplessly. He used to think Yagura was pretty good, and could be considered the best of the next generation of the Hidden Mist Village, and could even be said to be an important pillar of the Hidden Mist Village in the future. But now he has discovered that Yagura is essentially a funny guy sent by the Kyujo clan. But fortunately, he has a perfect successor like Kingxi, otherwise he would have been so angry that he died on the spot. Let's open the space channel at the location of the number 1 training ground. It is the place where successive Mizukages often go to test ninjutsu, and usually few people go there. Bing made his decision. Kingxi nodded, took a deep breath, and then slowly opened his eyes. His eyes had turned into pure eyes, and then without any pause, he switched directly to the reincarnation eye. As the Rinnegan opened, his eyes became deeper, as if they contained endless power. As Kingxi continued to output his pupil power, the sky blue light of the Rinnegan became more and more dazzling, illuminating the entire space. Chapter 199. At this moment, the surrounding space suddenly began to vibrate violently. The air seemed to be torn apart, forming tiny cracks. However, this vibration only lasted for a short moment, and then quickly returned to calm. It was as if everything that had just happened was just an illusion, making people wonder if it really existed. Kingxi exhaled heavily, his expression was a little listless, and his reincarnation eyes dimmed. In just a short period of time, Kingxi used more than 2/3 of his eye power in one breath, and only then was he able to barely change the position of the space channel, changing the exit from the ninja world to the number 1 training ground in the Hidden Mist Village that Bing mentioned. If he had not absorbed the giant Rinnegan, which made his Rinnegan higher in level than the ordinary Rinnegan, otherwise, even an ordinary mature Rinnegan that had completed 3 fetal movements might not be able to change the position of the space channel. Unless he also reaches the same 6 paths level of strength as Otsutsuki Hamura at that time, it would be possible to change the space channel. Are you okay? Bing looked at the exhausted Kingxi and asked with concern. He didn't want his heir to have any mishap because of such a small matter as changing the position of the space channel. It's okay. The strain on my pupil power is a bit too much, I just need to rest for a while. Ching Si waved at Bing, indicating that he was fine. After a while, Kingxi recovered a little, called the 4 people who were sitting quietly waiting for him to recover, and went into the space channel together. Soon, the group of 5 returned to the Hidden Mist Village. At the number 1 training ground, the Anbu team stationed here discovered the extremely obvious spatial fluctuations that were visible to the naked eye when Ching Si was adjusting the space channel. So they immediately sent the message back to the Anbu headquarters to request support. At this time, the Anbu Changjian, who was in charge of the Anbu headquarters, immediately took the 2 Anbu teams in the base who were not out on missions and rushed to the number 1 training ground in person after receiving the news. However, by the time Jian arrived at the number 1 training ground, the fluctuations in space had gradually begun to converge, and the position adjustment of the space channel had been completed. Just like the original method, Kingxi also placed the space channel in the larger artificial lake in the center of the number 1 training ground. Therefore, when Kingxi and others emerged from the lake, they saw 3 teams of Anbu led by Jian who were surrounding the lake as if they were facing a formidable enemy. When he saw that it was Kingxi and others who emerged from the lake, Jian breathed a sigh of relief. After all, when Bing, Yagura and Kingxi were not there, he, as the strongest fighting force in the Hidden Mist Village, was really frightened by the abnormal space fluctuations that suddenly appeared inside the village. Satisfiedly sensing the Anbu around him, the 3rd Mizukage Bing nodded secretly. He was very satisfied with the Anbu's reaction speed and response methods this time. The Hidden Mist Village was really becoming more and more powerful. In the Mizukage's office, the Elder Master and the Anbu Chief Sword were listening to Kyoji narrating their experiences on this trip, which made them exclaim in amazement. They were even more curious about Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara, who had returned with Kyoji and the other 2 and were standing behind Kyoji at this time. They had the same Byakugan as the Hyuga clan of Konoha village. However, CG concealed the fact that he met Kagaya Otsutsuki at the end, because even he himself did not understand what the situation was. Not long after, Kingxi finished telling everything. When he learned that the moon would belong to their Hidden Mist Village in the future, Yuanqi immediately realized the huge development opportunities. Jian Yi suggested to the third Mizukage Bing at that time that they could first set up an Anbu base on the moon and then transfer some Anbu members there for preliminary development and exploration. Without any hesitation, Bing agreed directly because this was what he wanted to do. At this moment, Master Yuan seemed to suddenly think of something, took out a letter from the table and handed it to Bing. A letter from Danzo Shimura of Konoha. He wants to cooperate with us again. No, it can't be considered cooperation. Never mind, you should just go and take a look at it yourself. There was unspeakable disgust in Master Yuan's tone. He was really disgusted by Danzo Shimura's despicable behavior. In fact, it is not a big deal, at least for the Hidden Mist Village. After all, although the Hidden Mist Village can get some benefits this time, for the Master and Sword who have been constantly influenced by Kingxi and have broadened their horizons a lot, the sincerity given by Danzo is just that. As they have already learned many secrets of the ninja world, they no longer think highly of the Sharingan which only has 3 Megatama. If Danzo offered a pair of Mangeki Sharingan as a reward, they would agree to it without hesitation. But is it just 1 against 3 Megatama? This still requires careful consideration. Bing quickly finished reading Danzo's letter and handed it to Kingxi. Kingxi also quickly browsed through it and then handed it to Yagura, who was now considered a high-ranking member of Kirigakure. As for the sword, he already knew something about it. Before Kingxi and the other two returned, Master Yuan had already discussed this matter with him. Jian actually didn't want to get involved in this matter. After all, in the last collaboration, Shimura Danzo's performance was extremely poor. Who knows how this cooperation will eventually develop into? If the encirclement and kill fails and they are exposed instead, they, Kirigakure, may be forced to join the battle. However, considering that this matter could effectively weaken the Konoha village, and the Hidden Mist village could also obtain a pair of 3 Megatama Sharingan, he has been hesitating and has never made up his mind. However, now that the third Mizukage Bing has returned, the decision-making power is no longer in his hands, and he no longer needs to worry about the gains and losses of this matter. After pondering for a moment, the third Mizukage Bing did not speak, but turned to Kiyoshi. He wanted Kiyoshi to make the decision. After all, looking at the current situation, the Ninja World War would not last too long. He was already consciously transferring power with Kiyoshi, who was about to become the fourth Mizukage. Chapter 200. Danzo Shimura, a good friend of the Hidden Mist Village, tasted the sweetness of cooperation with the Hidden Mist Village last time, and the Hidden Mist Village did not deduct the sealing technique that belonged to him afterwards. Of course, what Kingxi gave was an abridged version of the Uzumaki clan's sealing technique that could not threaten the Hidden Mist Village, but Shiken Danzo didn't know about it, and he didn't dare to directly ask Uzumaki Mito whether these sealing techniques were all the sealing techniques of the Uzumaki clan, otherwise all the good things he had done would be exposed completely. Therefore, after carefully asking his root ninjas to confirm one by one that there were no problems with these sealing techniques, our Lord Danzo began to have a little trust in the credibility of the Hidden Mist Village. So, this time when he needed to secretly take action against the evil Uchiha clan but was unable to mobilize a large number of his own subordinates, the first person he thought of was the Hidden Mist Village, the perfect partner. Yes, that's right. Not long after Danzo Shimura was dismissed from his post by the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, he was reinstated by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Not only did he become a member of the Elders' Council again, he also served as the Hokage's assistant again. Even the root was returned to him. This makes people sigh that they are really a pair of childhood sweethearts. Sarutobi Hiruzen once again chose to forgive Shimura Danzo. After seeing that Konoha had gained a certain advantage on the Sand Village battlefield, Sarutobi Hiruzen appointed Danzo Shiken, who had just been reinstated, as the commander of the Sand Village battlefield in River Country in order to suppress Hitaki Sakumo and prevent him from gaining more military exploits and prestige. On the Sand Village battlefield, there happened to be 10 Uchiha clan members led by the Uchiha clan's great elder Uka Yoshira who came to provide support. So, Danzo Shiken began to have evil ideas. As the commander of the Sand Village battlefield, he had 100 ways to set traps for the Uchiha clan's ninjas, kill them, and collect their Sharingan. That's right, 100 kinds. Although Uchiha Kira is considered a cunning person in the Uchiha clan, he still has the extremely arrogant character of the Uchiha clan in his bones. In front of the darkness of ninja Shimura Danzo, Uchiha Kira's so-called little thoughts are like the difference between a firefly and the bright moon. Danzo Shimura, who claimed to have inherited the will of his teacher, the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, was extremely hostile to the evil Uchiha clan, and had always wanted to wipe out the entire evil Uchiha clan. However, the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, had always verbally opposed his actions. Therefore, he could only choose to do it secretly, and this time, he had a great opportunity to kill the great elder of the Uchiha clan, a great opportunity to obtain several pairs of 3 Megatama Sharingan at one time. However, although the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen forgave Danzoshiken and restored his power to him, he still secretly remained cautious, fearing that Danzo would secretly cause trouble again. Therefore, during this period of time, the root members under Danzo were closely watched by the Anbu under Sarutobi Hiruzen, leaving Danzo no chance to mobilize them to carry out missions in secret. However, relying solely on the root team that Danzo brought with him to protect him was not enough to secretly kill Uchiha Kira, the chief elder of the Uchiha clan, who was at least an elite jonin and was definitely followed by other Uchiha clan members, without any injuries and without leaving any traces. After all, at the request of the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, all the major ninja clans sent elite ninjas to the battlefield for support, and the Uchiha clan was the most enthusiastic among them. The Uchiha clan, who wanted to restore their supreme glory as the two founding families of the village by making meritorious deeds in the war, sent a full lineup of jonin to the Sand Village battlefield. You know, all the jonin of the Uchiha clan basically have the 3 Megatama Sharingan. In other words, as long as an Uchiha has the 3 Megatama Sharingan, he must have the strength of a jonin. Should it be? I remember it was mentioned in the original book. If there is anything wrong, you are welcome to correct me. The Sharingan is so unreasonable. An Uchiha clan jonin with 3 Megatama Sharingan would require at least 2 or 3 ordinary jonin to fight against him. After all, the Sharingan is no joke, not to mention the 3 Megatama Sharingan, which is the pinnacle of ordinary Sharingan. In a one-on-one fight, you must run away. This proverb, which is widely circulated in the ninja world, is exactly the truth when fighting against the Uchiha clan. Danzoshiken knew very well what these hypocritical big ninja villages wanted, so he confidently offered a price that he thought the Hidden Mist village could not refuse, a pair of 3 Megatama Sharingan. In the plan designed by Danzoshiken, he would give Uchiha Kira a secret mission, go to the ambush location he designated, and then his small team of root members plus the external aid of the Hidden Mist village would kill him. As for Danzo Shimura himself, on the one hand, with external aid, there was no need for him to take risks personally, and on the other hand, as the commander of the entire battlefield, he was unlikely to leave the camp easily. If everything goes according to plan, he will at least be able to get 3 pairs of 3 Megatama Sharingan this time, so what if he gives 1 pair to the Hidden Mist village? If it was Danzo Shimura who had a 3 Megatama Sharingan on one arm in the later period, he would definitely not let go of the 3 Megatama Sharingan that could enhance his strength. But now, the 3 Megatama Sharingan is not that important to Danzo Shimura. It is merely a consumable material for him to study the secrets of the Uchiha clan. After all, his right eye under the bandage is already a 3 Megatama Sharingan. During the time he became the commander of the Tsunagakure battlefield, Danzo Shimura had already figured out Uchiha Kira's situation. As the Grand Elder of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Kira came to the Sand Village battlefield more as a leader and rarely went out on missions. Even if he is occasionally needed to go out on a mission, he will take 2 Uchiha Jonin to form a 3-person team to carry out the mission together. Although it is true that Uchiha Kirara Hayaki is arrogant and extremely confident in his own strength, he is not stupid and he still cherishes his life very much. However, this is not important. With 2 Jonins and Uchiha Kira, and with the external support of the Hidden Mist village, Danzo Shimura is confident that he can kill them all. Of course, Danzo Shiken would send out the rest of the Uchiha Jonin separately, creating an opportunity for him to be unable to refuse to carry out the mission and not get any support from the Uchiha clan, and then use this opportunity to encircle and kill Uchiha Kira. In Danzo Shimura's knowledge, Uchiha Kira, who only has 3 Megatama, is at best an elite Jonin. However, the leader of the team guarding him has a record of killing elite Jonin head-on. Therefore, there is nothing to be afraid of. After killing the leader Uchiha Kira, the remaining Uchiha clan Jonin and those Uchiha who were originally on this battlefield were left to be controlled by Shimura Danzo. Sharingan, you can have as many as you want. Chapter 201. Kingxi thought about it for a while, and then made a decision, so he said, I'll go. It just so happens that I have a little interest in the Uchiha clan's Sharingan. It would be nice to get a pair of 3 Megatama Sharingan to study. Okay. The third Mizukage Bing and Yuanshi did not stop him. They also knew that Kingsee's current level of strength was beyond their comprehension, so they had nothing to worry about. Kyoji then instructed Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Garrett to find and establish a base of the Otsutsuki clan in the Hidden Mist Village while he was away, and then he left directly using the eye technique Takamaji Ehara in a swift and decisive manner. In the northeast of the Land of Fire, there is an underground gold exchange base. Kyoji first came here to inspect the research progress of Sanzu Amato, and then took away some of the chakra radios and ear-hanging chakra phones that had been made, preparing to take them back to the Hidden Mist Village after finishing his work. Afterwards, Kyoji left, crossing the Land of Fire without causing any trouble, and arrived at the Konoha frontier camp located in the Land of Rivers. That night, Kyoji took out his mask from the Takamaji Ehara space again and put it on, then quietly came to Shimura Denzo's tent. Although Kyoji no longer cared about being exposed, this was a secret mission after all, and there was no need to let Shimura Denzo, the old man, see his true appearance now. Who is it? Denzo Shimura was indeed an old conspirator who had experienced many battles. He was very vigilant. As soon as CG appeared in his tent, he immediately noticed it. So he shouted and tried to call the root ninja guarding outside the tent. The corners of Kingsee's mouth under the mask could not help but draw a light arc, and his pure eyes had quietly opened. Don't waste your energy, Mr. Denzo. This place has been covered by my barrier. Your men won't notice it. The moment Kyoji entered Denzo's tent, he deployed a sealing barrier with an illusionary nature. Any actions taking place inside the tent could not be easily transmitted to the outside, and the illusion attached to the barrier would also confuse and hint at the root ninjas outside the tent. Unless Denzo uses an attack with power exceeding the barrier's tolerance limit to instantly break the barrier, he will be trapped in Kingsee's barrier. However, Denzo, as the famous dark ninja in the ninja world, was no pushover. With the help of the dim candlelight, he had clearly seen the pattern on Kyoji's mask, and through Kyoji's clothes, he quickly recognized and retrieved Kyoji's identity. This also made Denzo feel relieved, but at the same time he was also shocked by Kingsee's terrifying strength. Sneaking into his tent silently and completing the barrier in an instant, isolating him and his root ninjas. This is not something that an ordinary ninja can do easily. Even he himself, a cage-level strongman, cannot do this. As expected of a strong man who can defeat the third Kazekage. Mr. Kagaya CG of the Hidden Mist Village. Denzo's gloomy voice came out slowly. At this time, he had calmed down. Recognizing Seiji's identity, he understood that this was the foreign aid sent by the Hidden Mist Village to help him encircle and kill Uchiha Kirara. At the same time, he was secretly happy in his heart. He didn't expect that the Hidden Mist Village valued him as a partner so much. Although only one person came, this person was a strong man who could defeat the third Kazekage Iron Sand. It seemed that Uchiha Kirara's death was foolproof. Oh? Were you recognized? CG smiled faintly, showing a slight recognition of Shimura Denzo's intelligence capabilities, but did not refute his wrong surname. From this point of view, the leader of Konoha's route, Hokage assisting Denzo Shimura, should not be underestimated. Kiyoshi, who demonstrated the ability of the corpse bone vein in the battle with the third Kazekage Tessa, has been confirmed as a member of the Hyuga clan by various parties in the ninja world who have received intelligence on the matter. After all, in the ninja world, the Shikatsu represents the Hyuga clan, and no one with any other surname has ever used the Shikatsu. However, the relevant information about the Pure Eye was not revealed by the Sand Village, because only the third Kazekage Tessa, who had personally fought with Kiyoshi, knew clearly that Kiyoshi possessed some kind of eye technique. Therefore, all parties in the ninja world still firmly believe that Seiji is a member of the Hyuga clan. After his identity was revealed by Denzo, Kingji no longer had the desire to greet or communicate with Denzo. He also despised Denzo's character, but this was a huge good thing for the Hidden Mist Village. The existence of Denzo can be said to be a troublemaker for Konoha Village. As long as this loyal friend of the Hidden Mist Village is around, Konoha Village will only become weaker and weaker. Kiyoshi stretched out his right hand and wiped across the void, taking out a sealing scroll from the Takamagahara space that could connect to him by inputting chakra, and then handed the scroll to Denzo. Denzo, who was closely watching Kingsee's movements, saw this scene. His single eye suddenly shrank. It turned out to be a real ability related to time and space. The information about CG collected by the root had specifically noted that he might possess abilities related to time and space. After all, the Okashura that instantly appeared out of thin air was seen by the fighting ninjas from both the Sand Village and the Omegakure ninjas. This kind of information could not be concealed at all, but other parties except the Sand Village did not know that it was Seiji's eye technique. Danzo Shimura originally didn't quite believe this, because the last person in the ninja world who could use time and space ninjutsu was his teacher, the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, who was known as the fastest ninja in the ninja world. Therefore, Danzo Shimura, who often saw his teacher use the Flying Thunder God technique, understood very well how rare and tricky the abilities related to time and space were. After Kingxi left, Danzo tightly grasped the sealing scroll in his hand, remained silent for a long time, and his sharp single eye was full of viciousness. In his mind, he replayed the scene of Seiji taking out the scroll from the void over and over again. Thinking of the eyes under Seiji's mask that shone with a faint light even in the dim environment, he kept muttering to himself, "It should be some kind of special eye technique, right? It seems that we need to speed up the collection of information about this Kaguya Seiji. Seiji's strength has completely exceeded his expectations." Danzo, who was secretly delighted just now, is now a little uncertain whether to continue cooperating with Seiji and the Hidden Mist Village. Seiji, who has the ability of time and space, is a huge threat to Konoha. But soon, Danzo Shimura became determined again. The outside must be safe first. Even if it means courting disaster, he must first eradicate the evil Uchiha clan within Konoha village. To eliminate the evil Uchiha clan, we must start by killing their great elder, Uchiha Kirara. Confident and conceited yet fearless and ignorant, Danzo Shimura has always deeply believed that as long as he has thoroughly studied the Sharingan and would release, and possesses the power of the god of the ninja world, Hashirama Senju, and the Shura of the ninja world, Uchiha Madara Uchiha, he, Danzo Shimura, will be able to surpass the former Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, stand proudly at the top of the ninja world, and become the strongest in the ninja world. And by then, Kaguya Seiji, who can defeat the third Kazekage Tessa, will no longer be a concern. At most, he will be a small character that Lord Danzo Shimura can easily deal with a wave of his hand. Therefore, he thought that there was nothing wrong with what he did, and everything was for Konoha. Chapter 202. The next few days were peaceful and nothing happened, and Danzo Shiken never activated the sealing scroll given by Kingxi. Therefore, Kingxi settled down in a dilapidated town near the battlefield during these few days. After setting up the barrier, Kingxi has been constantly trying to condense his own official version of the truth-seeking jade according to the method taught by Otsutsuki Hamura. Soon, another 3 days passed, but Kingxi felt that he was getting closer and closer to condensing his own seeking Deo jade. With the degraded truth-seeking jewel in the Samsara Eye Chakra mode as a reference, and the method taught by Otsutsuki Hamura to fuse the 7 attributes of chakra to create the truth-seeking jewel, it was not that difficult for Seiji, who was already extremely talented, to condense the real truth-seeking jewel. At last, at a certain moment, 7 chakras with different attributes began to merge continuously in Kingxi's body according to some mysterious proportion and method. A mysterious aura that was out of this world suddenly began to spread from Kingxi's body to the surroundings. As time goes by, suddenly, Kingxi, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, slowly floated up, his eyes automatically turned into the appearance of the Samsara Eye, and he unconsciously entered the Samsara Eye Chakra mode. Then, a dark chakra ball suddenly emerged from the 2 red dots in the middle of Kingxi's forehead, then floated to Kingxi's back and began to rotate slowly. However, surprisingly, there was no wound or mark on Kingxi's forehead, as if this black chakra ball was not a physical entity, but an invisible and intangible thing. This black chakra sphere is obviously much larger than the chakra beads surrounding Seiji's body in the chakra mode of the Samsara Eye. Perhaps, it would take about 7 chakra beads gathered together to match the size of this black chakra sphere. The true truth-seeking jade belonging to Kingxi appeared. Immediately afterwards, the second truth-seeking jade emerged from the middle of Kingxi's forehead, followed by the third one, and then it stopped abruptly. Is 3 the limit? Kingxi muttered to himself slowly, then it seems to be the fetal movement. So, 1 fetal movement corresponds to 3 Tao-seeking jades. Otsutsuki Hamura never told Kyoji about this information, but it was not surprising. After all, it took less than a day for Otsutsuki Hamura's Rinnegan to awaken and mature. Moreover, when Otsutsuki Hamura awakened the Rinnegan, he already possessed the strength of the 6 paths level. Therefore, his truth-seeking ball did not need to be in the Rinnegan chakra mode like Kyoji to use it. Kingxi shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Now that he had condensed his own Tao-seeking jade, the following things would be a natural progression. When Seiji's Rinnegan completed 3 fetal movements and entered a mature state, CG would naturally be able to possess the strength of the 6 paths level. And after reaching the same 6 paths level as Otsutsuki Hamura, CG believed that he could also use the truth-seeking jade under normal circumstances. Slowly controlling the Tao-seeking jade to continuously change into various shapes around his body, Kingxi's control and understanding of the Tao-seeking jade became deeper and deeper in the process. Although Otsutsuki Hamura has already provided various information on the use of the truth-seeking jade, it is ultimately not as fast as trying to control it by experiencing it personally. Before long, Kingxi was able to control his 3 truth-seeking jades at will, and he had become very proficient at it. However, this actually does not have any particular effect on Kingxi at the moment. It only deepens Kingxi's understanding of the 7 attributes of chakra in the process of condensing the truth-seeking jade. But one thing worth mentioning is that there is basically no subsequent attack that can break Kingxi's defense. Under the defense of the truth-seeking jade, as long as the strength has not reached the 6 paths level, then other than the 8 gates of ninjutsu, or super special abilities such as time and space, and the immortal arts that almost no ninjas can use, other ordinary ninjutsu will have no effect on the truth-seeking jade. The real use of the Tao-seeking jade is that after Kingxi reaches the 6 paths level, he can rely on the characteristics of the Tao-seeking jade to directly become a leader among the 6 paths level. After all, at this stage, Kingxi doesn't need to use the Samsara Eye Chakra mode and the truth-seeking ball to deal with ordinary enemies. In the ninja world, only the old man with the potential to force out Seiji's Samsara Eye Chakra mode. Remember, it's just a possibility. At this time, Uchiha Madara was already an old man in his twilight years, and he no longer had his own Rinnegan. Judging from his strength during the last fight, the old Uchiha Madara without the Rinnegan could only exert the limit of the cage level, and at most the strength of an ordinary super cage level. He was only able to suppress himself easily because of the terrifying strength of the complete form of Susanoo. But now, offense and defense have changed. Having learned Otsutsuki Hamura's powerful physical skills, and now that CG can use Otsutsuki Ishaiki's physical skills that he was previously unable to use due to his bloodline condition, CG feels that even if he does not use the Samsara Eye Chakra mode and the truth-seeking ball to use the Silver Wheel Samsara Explosion or the Golden Wheel Samsara Explosion, he should be able to suppress Uchiha Madara. Chapter 203. His pupils returned to their original state, and Kingxi slowly dissipated the truth-seeking jade and the Samsara Eye Chakra mode, then sat back on the bed. At this moment, Kingji felt that the sealing scroll he left for Shimura Danzo was activated. Kingxi's expression suddenly changed and became solemn. It was time to meet the great elder of the Uchiha clan. He hoped that he could bring him some surprises. A canyon on the border between the Kingdom of Rivers and the Kingdom of Wines. The great elder of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Kira, was leading 2 of the Uchiha clan's Jonin, Uchiha Sho and Uchiha Shun, to carry out the mission assigned by Danzo Shimura to spy on an important supply base that was suspected to be the front line of the Sand Village. At first Uchiha Kira wanted to refuse, but Shimura Danzo had carefully planned the situation for so long, so how could he give him the chance to refuse? Through half a month of continuous operation, Danzo Shimura had already sent all the remaining Uchiha clan members out to carry out missions. Whether it was the Jonin who came with Uchiha Kira to provide support, or the Chiyunin who were originally here, they were all sent out by Danzo Shimura with various tasks at different time periods. In desperation, Uchiha Kira had to agree, and took Uchiha Sho and Uchiha Shun who stayed behind to protect him, to carry out the exploration mission assigned by Shimura Danzo. Uchiha Kira did not think there was anything wrong with this mission. After all, in his opinion, their Uchiha clan was the most powerful ninja clan in Konoha. For the Uchiha clan who were eager to regain the family status and gain the right to speak through military exploits, these missions were their best responsibility. Moreover, only their powerful Uchiha clan can complete the task better. Therefore, Uchiha Kira regarded the fact that all the Uchiha clan members were sent out to carry out the mission as just a coincidence. Coupled with the flattery from the commander Danzo Shimura, Uchiha Kira, who had always disliked Danzo Shimura, felt a little flattered. You know, in Konoha village, Danzo Shimura was the leader of the Uchiha clan who was hostile to them. This leader has now become the investor leader, wow! Who wouldn't be confused? So he reluctantly accepted the mission assigned by Danzo Shimura. If Uchiha Kira really refused firmly, to be honest, Shimura Danzo would have no good way to deal with him. After all, no matter what, he is the grand elder of the Uchiha clan, the largest ninja clan in Konoha. I can only say that the person who knows you best is often your enemy. Danzo Shimura truly understands the character of the Uchiha clan. Master Kira. The Uchiha clan Jonin named Xiang asked doubtfully, his eyes had turned blood red at this time, this place doesn't look like the Sand Village base. The Sharingan didn't detect any signs of ninja activities, nor did it detect any chakra reactions. Uchiha Kira also felt that something was wrong at this time, but he still did not realize that this was a conspiracy and trap against him. After all, since the war began, there had been basically no errors in the intelligence of Konoha village. Uchiha Kira stared into the depths of the canyon, and his movements began to slow down gradually. He also opened his Sharingan, and in the scarlet glow, 3 black Megatama were slowly rotating. Seeing that Uchiha Kira slowed down at the mouth of the canyon and had no intention of going any deeper, the root ninja code named A, who was lying in ambush, decisively gave the signal to attack. Do it! With Jia's order, more than 10 kunao, mixed with detonating tags, were shot at Uchiha Kira, Uchiha Sho, and Uchiha Shun below. At the same time, 3 root ninjas appeared above the canyon. Humph! Uchiha Kira snorted coldly. At this moment he finally realized what was going on. This bastard Danzo Shimura is really a dog that can't change its nature. Don't take action! He ordered Uchiha Xiang and Uchiha Jun proudly. As the great elder of the Uchiha clan, he was not afraid of just 3 roots, even if they were the elites among them. The Sharingan quickly scanned all the incoming kunao and explosive tags, and Uchiha Kira determined their trajectories in the air in an instant. He reached into the ninja tool bag behind his back, took out several shurikens, and then threw them into the air with force. Uchiha Kira quickly formed seals with his hands, leaving a trail of after-images, then his cheeks puffed up high, and several hot fireballs the size of wash basins were continuously spit out of his mouth. Fire release, Impatience Flower Claws Red. The fireball drew red tracks in the air, and like a burning meteor, it quickly caught up with the shuriken thrown by Uchiha Kira and quickly wrapped the shuriken in it. However, the shuriken wrapped in the fireball was not melted by the high temperature, but was wrapped in a blazing flame under Uchiha Kira's superb chakra control. Under the high temperature of the flame, the shuriken began to turn red gradually, like a red-hot iron block, with scorching temperature and huge kinetic energy, it flew rapidly towards the attack of the root ninja. The moment the detonator came into contact with the fireball, it was directly detonated. A violent explosion echoed in the canyon, and thick smoke and dust appeared in the air. Then, the shuriken pierced through the smoke and continued to fly towards the root ninjas. Secret technique Insect Jade. The root ninja codenamed B calmly stretched out his right hand. With a buzz 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 sound, a black cloud appeared in the air, and then it met the oncoming shuriken at a speed that seemed extremely slow but was actually not slow at all. The shuriken was slowly swallowed by the insect ball without causing any ripples. Although the root ninjas took advantage of the sneak attack, they failed to lead Uchiha Kira to the designated location where the detonating tags were buried, which greatly reduced their attack. The first round of battles between the Uchiha and the root could barely be considered a draw. The murderous aura slowly spread in the air of the canyon. Uchiha Kira, Uchiha Sho, and Uchiha Shun below the canyon used their Sharingan to glare fiercely at the 3-member root team above them who were originally used to protect Danzo. Being stared at by 3 pairs of triple Megatama Sharingan filled with murderous intent, the 3 root ninjas, A, B, and C, could not help but break out in a few drops of cold sweat on their foreheads. Judging from the hard power, A, B, and C, who can follow Shimura Danzo as guards, are certainly not weak in strength. They are indeed elite ninjas among the top ninjas in the root. At the same time, they also came from the ninja clans of Konoha. A came from the Yamanaka clan, B came from the Aberame clan, and C came from the Shiranui clan. But they have to face the largest ninja clan in Konoha, and possibly the largest ninja clan in the current ninja world, the Jonin and Great Elder of the Uchiha clan, which makes their strength a little insufficient. After the sneak attack failed, 3 against 3, they did not have any advantage. So, as the captain, Jia immediately took out the sealing scroll, input chakra, and notified Kingxi. Chapter 204. Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. The 3 Uchiha clan members at the bottom of the canyon simultaneously used the Uchiha clan's signature fire-style ninjutsu. 3 huge fireballs flew straight towards the 3 people at the root above the canyon. At this moment, the space in front of Jia began to distort in a ripple-like manner, and then a figure appeared silently in front of the 3 root members. It was Kingxi who was located through the sealing scroll and teleport using the eye technique Takamaji Ehara. Floating in the air, Kingxi looked at the 3 fireballs that were so close to him, his face showing no sadness or joy. The pupil power instantly gathered at the left eye, and the aqua blue light lit up slightly. King Si calmly looked at the fireball that was about to hit him, and the pupil technique Xiaoming Biguna was activated. The 3 fireballs were instantly shrunk to a point barely visible to the naked eye, and then floated past Ching Si. But in the eyes of others, King Si used some unknown ninjutsu, and the great fireball technique disappeared with a wave of his hand. Whether it was the Uchiha side or the root side, they couldn't help but be shocked when they saw this scene. After all, this kind of ability was too weird. How could a ninja from the hidden mist village appear here? Uchiha Kirara asked with a hint of doubt and confusion in his tone. Although he did not recognize Kyoji's specific identity, the pattern and style of the mask on Kyoji's face still allowed him to identify Kyoji's origin. However, Uchiha Kira soon understood what was going on and flew into a rage. Damn it! That old dog Shimura Danzo actually colluded with the hidden mist village to attack our Uchiha clan. He knew that Danzo Shimura was an extremely sinister and despicable person, but he didn't expect that Danzo Shimura could be so shameless. They may fight within the village, but no matter what, it is Konoha's internal matter. And now, in order to get rid of him, the great elder of the Uchiha clan, Danzo Shimura actually took the initiative to collude with other villages. Uchiha Kira's anger level has reached its peak at this moment. Although the Uchiha clan always looks arrogant, they also deeply love Konoha, which was founded by their clan. Uchiha Kira's Scarlet Sharingan stared at the 3 root members, as well as Seiji who had landed and was standing next to Kazuka, his eyes revealing uncontrollable anger. His gaze was like a knife, as if it wanted to pierce through all of them, and the murderous aura was as tangible as an overwhelming force. You know, the Uchiha clan's great elder, Uchiha Kirara, is a ninja of the same generation as Konoha's high-ranking officials such as Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo. He is 45 years old this year. He has experienced countless battles, big and small, in his life, and he has countless souls of dead ninjas under his command. Therefore, the murderous aura he condenses is very terrifying. At this time, Uchiha Kira still had enough confidence. At the age of 45, he was at the peak of his career as a ninja. Moreover, he was not an ordinary Uchiha. King Si's gaze swept down at Uchiha Kira, Uchiha Sho, and Uchiha Shun below. Suddenly, his gaze stopped on Uchiha Kira. Through the pure eye, King Si could clearly see the amount of chakra in Uchiha Kira's body that far exceeded that of Uchiha Sho and Uchiha Shun beside him, as well as the extremely cold and huge pupil power hidden in his eyes. This is very different from the information given by Shimura Danzo. Just because other ninjas can't sense it doesn't mean that Seiji can't sense it. In terms of chakra alone, Uchiha Kirara's strength has reached the level of Kage, not to mention the huge pupil power that is obviously different from the ordinary 3 Megatama Sharingan under the observation of the pure eye. Ching Si understood in his heart that it seemed that he had come to the right place this time. Today, he could gain more than just a pair of 3 Megatama Sharingan. Leave Uchiha Kirara to me. The other 2 Uchiha are yours. After King Si said this, he jumped up and flew towards Uchiha Kirara at a high speed, while quickly forming seals with his hands. Uchiha Kirara looked at Seiji rushing towards him in the air, and his pupils shrank again. Trouble. It turned out to be the ability to fly. So he turned around and quickly retreated in the direction he came from. Facing Ching Si who has the ability to fly, if the battle is fought in this canyon, he simply does not have enough space to dodge and can only become a target, unable to launch an effective counterattack, even if he is confident that he can turn the tables. Therefore, he needs a large enough space for him to dodge and counterattack, or a battlefield with certain restrictions on flying ability. Fire Release, Phoenix Immortal Fire Technique. King Si in the air continuously spit out fireballs from his mouth, whistling towards the retreating Uchiha Kira. Feeling the scorching breath approaching from behind, Uchiha Kira had no choice but to turn back. He stomped his right foot on the ground, jumped high, and instantly twisted 180 degrees in the air. He quickly formed seals with both hands, Zia Yin Su Zhou Mao Yin, and completed 6 seals in an instant. Fire Release, Phoenix Immortal Fire Technique. Although both were Phoenix Fire techniques, judging from the size of the fireballs, the Phoenix Fire technique used by Uchiha Kira was obviously much smaller than that used by Seiji, and the power was also far different. So, after consuming almost twice as much chakra as Kyoji consumed, Uchiha Kirara finally managed to withstand this wave of fireball attacks. But at this time, King Si was almost approaching Uchiha Kirara. Uchiha Kira's expression remained unchanged and he did not move. He closed his left eye and stared with his right eye at Seiji who was approaching him in the air. A large amount of pupil power continued to gather in Uchiha Kira's left eye, and 2 lines of blood and tears overflowed from his left eye and flowed across Uchiha Kira's cheeks. Then, Uchiha Kira suddenly opened his tightly closed left eye and focused his gaze on Seiji. The 3 megatama in his left eye spun rapidly, and then instantly connected together to form a 5-pointed windmill pattern. Mangeki Sharingan. Chapter 205. It turns out that Uchiha Kira possesses the Mangeki Sharingan, which is more advanced than the 3 megatama Sharingan. However, this is not his own Mangeki Sharingan. This pair of Mangeki belonged to the previous great elder of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Setsuna. Uchiha Setsuna is an even more cunning, sinister, and treacherous character. Compared with Uchiha Kira, he is like heaven and earth. He has a desire for power and an obsession with family honor in his heart, and he inherited Uchiha Madara's will, making him an extremely dangerous existence. Moreover, he harbored resentment towards the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, and was very dissatisfied with the various overt and covert targeting of him, believing that his policies were discrimination and oppression against the Uchiha clan. He firmly believed that only through resistance could the dignity and rights of the Uchiha clan be maintained. So, Uchiha Setsuna, who had become the grand elder of the Uchiha clan at that time, began to plan a rebellion, trying to snatch back the position of Hokage that should have belonged to their Uchiha clan from the Senju clan and restore the glory of the Uchiha clan. However, Uchiha Setsuna's plan did not succeed. The second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, keenly noticed the unusual movements of the Uchiha clan, so he sent out the Anbu, which had been established for some time, to investigate. After a series of investigations, the Anbu discovered the conspiracy that Uchiha Setsuna was about to implement. So the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, took decisive action and dispatched an entire team of Anbu to forcefully suppress the Uchiha clan members who were preparing to rebel. He also personally arrested Uchiha Setsuna and imprisoned him in Konoha prison. The confidence that gave Uchiha Setsuna the courage to incite his clansmen to rebel with him came from his Mangeki Sharingan, which was awakened after he witnessed his good friend being killed on the battlefield. However, in the face of the powerful Flying Thunder God technique, Uchiha Setsuna did not even have time to open his Mangeki Sharingan before he was defeated in an instant by Senju Tobirama. Therefore, the existence of this pair of Mangeki Sharingan was not known to anyone else. Although Uchiha Setsuna was imprisoned in Konoha prison for a long time, he was the leader of the hawkish Uchiha clan after all, and had many supporters in the Uchiha clan, and Uchiha Kira was one of them. So, after successfully ascending to become the grand elder of the Uchiha clan a few years ago, Uchiha Kira naturally went to the Konoha prison to visit this senior who was not in the clan but still had great reputation. And what happened next was a natural progression. After using the Sharingan illusion to confuse the guards, Uchiha Kira had a long talk with Uchiha Setsuna, and in the end they even exchanged eyes with each other. After replacing Uchiha Setsuna's Sharingan, although Uchiha Kira could not control it as easily as his original Sharingan, the strength of the Mangeki Sharingan was more than enough to make up for this shortcoming. After all, they are all from the same Uchiha clan bloodline. Although it is not smooth enough to use and the consumption is greater than normal, it will not be unable to be closed after being transplanted by foreign races. However, according to Uchiha Setsuna's warning, and he also read some information about the Mangeki Sharingan from the stone tablet of Nanga Shrine, after Uchiha Kira obtained the Mangeki Sharingan, he hardly used it in order to prevent his eyesight from declining. Therefore, he kept the matter of the Mangeki Sharingan a secret. After all, good steel should be used on the blade. This pair of Mangeki was specially prepared by Uchiha Setsuna and Uchiha Kira for the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen as a gift for the next coup. Amaterasu. Following a low shout from Uchiha Kira, a large patch of black flame suddenly appeared on Kingsee's body, and then gradually spread to the entire body. Ha 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 ha. Seeing Amaterasu's black flame successfully wrapping up Kiyoshi, Uchiha Kira couldn't help but laugh wildly. He didn't expect that this seemingly powerful mist ninja could be hit by his Amaterasu so easily. You know, Amaterasu's black flame is said to be as hot as the sun's fire. Moreover, Amaterasu's black flame will not disappear until the target is completely burned. Therefore, Uchiha Kira felt that he had already secured victory. However, Kingsea remained unmoved. When Uchiha Kira gathered his eye power, his pure eye had already noticed it, but he had no intention of dodging at all. Under the vision of the pure eye, he could clearly see the flow of Uchiha Kira's eye power, so he had some guesses in his mind about the eye technique that Uchiha Kira was about to use. Is it really Amaterasu? Kingxi slowed down his flying speed, then stopped, slowly falling to the ground, carefully feeling the power of the black flames all over his body. The black flames were burning fiercely, but in fact they did not cause any harm to Kingxi. The corpse bone veins continuously formed a solid layer of defense on Kingxi's body surface. Whenever Amaterasu's black flames were about to break through the defense of the corpse bone veins and burn the bone shield on the body surface, new bone shields would soon be replenished. After a while, Uchiha Kirara, who was laughing wildly, also realized that things seemed not quite what he thought. Kingxi, who was wrapped in black flames, did not even let out a scream. At this time, Kingxi, who had already had enough understanding of the power of Amaterasu, instantly bloomed a sky blue light in his eyes, and his pure eye had already switched to the reincarnation eye. A playful smile flashed across Kingxi's face behind the mask, and a huge repulsive force instantly erupted with Kingxi as the center. Shinra Tenzen. The Samsara Eye, like the Rinnegan, also has the ability to manipulate gravity and repulsion. It is not surprising at all that CG can use this trick under the instruction of Otsutsuki Hamura. Old man Liudeo, your moves are great, but it's mine now. Slanting smile.jpg. Before Uchiha Kira could react, the black flames of Amaterasu that spread across Kyoshi's body were directly bounced off by Shinra Tensei. The black flames scattered everywhere in a disorderly manner and continued to burn. The wild laughter suddenly stopped. Uchiha Kira looked at this scene that exceeded his cognition and his heart was shocked. He never thought that Amaterasu, which was said to last forever until its target was completely burned, could be cracked so easily. Moreover, because the distance was too far and Kingxi was always floating in the air, Uchiha Kirara did not pay much attention to Kingxi's eyes hidden behind the mask. After all, the entire ninja world basically knew that there was no other eye technique family in the Hidden Mist village except the Red Eye Chiba clan, which was on the verge of extinction. However, at this time, Uchiha Kira finally discovered the abnormality in Kyoshi's eyes hidden behind the mask. Through the Manjiki Sharingan, Uchiha Kira clearly saw the pupil power gathered in Seiji's eyes, which was even more terrifying and powerful than that of anyone else who owned the Manjiki Sharingan. Chapter 206. Uchiha Kirara had already begun to think of retreating at this time. His own family knew his own business. Whether it was a competition of chakra amount or eye power, he had no advantage in front of Kingxi. The chakra gathered under his feet and exploded instantly. Uchiha Kira quickly retreated, and his hands quickly formed seals at the same time. Fire escape, the great fire extinguishes. Uchiha Kira shouted loudly, gathered a large amount of chakra in his mouth in one breath, and then suddenly spurted out a huge flame. The flame quickly spread out, forming a blazing sea of fire, and rushed towards Kingxi's position frantically. At the same time, Uchiha Kirara gathered his pupil power in his right eye and used his right eye's pupil technique on the fire escape he had just performed. Yai, hurry up! This is the eye technique that resides in the Manjiki Sharingan in the right eye of Uchiha Kira or Uchiha Setsuna. It is an auxiliary eye technique that can greatly enhance the speed and power of fire-style ninjutsu, and can also control the changes in the form of fire style. According to the setting, he is weaker than Kagutsuki and cannot control Amaterasu. With the help of the eye technique Night Art Speed Life, Hao Huo Mikyu's speed and power increased instantly, and he arrived in front of Ching Si in an instant. Feeling the burning heat in front of him, Kingxi still had no intention of dodging. Although this large-scale fire escape was not easy to shrink using Xiaoming Biguna, Kingxi now had plenty of means to deal with it. The chakra gathered in the right hand and then slowly pushed forward. 8 trigrams, Spiral Rebuke. The Samsara Eye emitted a sky blue glow, and the huge repulsive force erupted again, forming a spiral that directly pierced through the sea of fire in front of Kingxi. Compared to Shinra Tensei, Spiral Repulsion Palm also uses repulsive force, but it is not an all-round repulsive attack like Shinra Tensei. Instead, it is more concentrated in its application method, and the power of the single-point attack is also more powerful. Kingxi nodded in satisfaction, then stepped lightly on the ground, and his chakra burst out instantly, rushing towards Uchiha Kira at a rapid speed. Uchiha Kira stared in amazement at the sea of fire that was pierced by Kingxi's palm. He was completely stunned. This was the great fire extinguishing that was enhanced by the eye technique Night Art Speed Life, but it was pierced by the opponent so easily. At this moment, Uchiha Kirara suddenly found that Seiji's figure disappeared from his sight. His heart tightened and he realized that something was wrong. However, although his brain reacted, his body could not keep up. The next second, Kingxi appeared behind Uchiha Kira in an instant, raised his right leg, and kicked Uchiha Kira hard. Uchiha Kira had no time to react and could only instinctively turn his body to the side to try to avoid it, but he was still kicked away by the heavy kick. Uchiha Kira, who was kicked away, couldn't help spitting out a large mouthful of blood in the air, and then fell heavily to the ground. Although Kingxi did not use his full strength, even a casual attack from him was not something that a ninja like Uchiha Kira who was not specialized in physical skills could withstand. Kyoji did not continue his pursuit. After all, Uchiha Kira, who possessed the Mangeki Sharingan, could barely be considered a decent opponent. And since Kyoji had awakened his Rinnegan, he had not had time to test his abilities in actual combat. Therefore, he could not be killed so easily. Uchiha Kira reached out and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, then slowly stood up. At this moment, he already knew that he was no match for Seiji, but he must make Seiji, who looked down on him, pay the price. He still had the third power of the Mangeki Sharingan, which symbolized destruction and was known as the power of God, that he hadn't used yet. Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. Uchiha Kira launched an attack, and the Uchiha clan's signature fireball, under the effect of the eye technique Night Art Speed Life, whizzed towards Seiji. You really have no memory. Ching Si murmured, and then struck out with another palm. 8 trigrams, empty wall palm. The fireball was dispersed by Kingxi's palm, but following the fireball were 3 shurikens that came whistling in a triangular shape. Uchiha's shuriken. The powerful insight of the Samsara Eye allowed Kingji to directly discover the 3 steel wires tied behind the shuriken, but he had no intention of moving. Instead, he threw out 3 bone bullets and shot down the 3 shurikens that were approaching him. Then Kingji took the opportunity to pull out the bone blade from his shoulder and used it to wrap up all the steel wires behind the shuriken. Sure enough, his eyes also have a strong insight. Uchiha Kira looked at this scene and understood it in his heart. He didn't expect to succeed by relying on this little trick. He used the shuriken technique just to confirm the approximate level of Kyoji's insight. Uchiha Kira was just about to let go of the steel wire wrapped around his hand and prepare to launch a new round of attack, but at this moment, his expression suddenly changed. A huge force came from the other end of the steel wire. It was Kingxi who suddenly exerted force at the other end of the steel wire and pulled Uchiha Kira straight over. Shinra Tenzen. Uchiha Kira, who had just been pulled over, was once again bounced away by the powerful repulsive force before he even had time to reach Kingji. However, before Uchiha Kira landed on the ground, Kingxi stretched out his right hand again and aimed at Uchiha Kira who was still flying in the air. All things are attracted by heaven. A powerful gravitational force appeared out of nowhere and quickly sucked back Uchiha Kira, who was being pushed backwards at a very fast speed by the repulsive force. In this way, Uchiha Kira was hit by Kyoji in the air like a ball, constantly flying around. The damage was not great, but it was extremely insulting. The main purpose was to improve his skill proficiency. During this process, Kingji became more and more proficient in using the various abilities of the Rinnegan. Finally, Uchiha Kira, who felt humiliated, exploded. You know, he is the chief elder of the Uchiha clan, the largest ninja clan in Konoha and even in the ninja world. How could he be played like this? Therefore, when Uchiha Kira was once again sucked in by Wang Xiangdian, he directly used Susanoo. And it directly comes with the second stage of Susanoo. Chapter 207. The blue chakra instantly enveloped Uchiha Kira's body, and then a tall skeleton-like giant appeared, and then meridians and flesh and blood grew in the blink of an eye. Although he was still bounced away by Shinra Tensei, Uchiha Kira was able to control his body. Before the Mangeki Sharingan reaches the level of eternity, it comes with the risk of blindness. The more times the Mangeki Sharingan's eye techniques are used, the faster its eye power will grow, but at the same time, its vision will continue to decline with the use of eye techniques, especially Susanoo, which will accelerate this process on the original basis. However, Uchiha Kira couldn't care less about these things at this moment. If he didn't use Susanoo now, he would never have the chance to use it in the future. Even if he went blind, it was better than losing his life. Moreover, since he exchanged eyes with Uchiha Setsuna and obtained this pair of Mangeki Sharingan, Uchiha Kira has used it only a few times, so it can be said that this is a pair of Mangeki Sharingan in almost intact condition. At least it can be used by Uchiha Kira under Susanoo for a while. Susanoo? It's far inferior to Old Bantu. Kingxi murmured in a low voice. It was just the second stage of Susanoo and posed no threat to him at all. However, Uchiha Kira didn't care what Kyoji thought. After using Susanoo, although he felt severe pain continuously, he could also feel the power surging out of his body crazily at the same time. The feeling of invincibility filled with power gave Uchiha Kirara the illusion that he was unbeatable, and he felt that he could do it again. Ha! Uchiha Kira shouted loudly, controlling Susanoo and punching towards Seiji. Kingxi still stood there without moving. At the moment before Susanoo's giant fist hit him, he slightly turned sideways and dodged the explosive punch at an extreme distance. Then Kingxi put his hands on the side of Susanoo's fist, stretched out his hands, wiped it once, pulled it twice, led it 3 times, and pushed it 4 times, using the opponent's force to counter-attack. 4 consecutive movements were completed in one go. Boom! The giant fist smashed to the ground, sending smoke and dust flying everywhere, but Kingxi was unharmed. Seeing this, Uchiha Kira roared again, and his chakra and eye power burst out like crazy. In order to defeat Kyoji and survive, he no longer cared about anything. The blue Susanoo was quickly covered with a layer of Crotengu armor, and its size became larger again. Susanoo. Phase 3. Kingxi frowned as he looked at Uchiha Kira's Susanoo, which had reached the 3rd stage. The Susanoo in front of him was quite different from what Kingxi had known. Normally, Susanoo has its own exclusive weapon, but Uchiha Kira's Susanoo has reached the 3rd stage, but his hands are empty. At this time, as Uchiha Kira continued to output his eye power, black flames of Amaterasu appeared all over Susanoo, burning fiercely. Kingxi suddenly realized that it seemed that Uchiha Kira's Susanoo weapon should have been replaced by the Amaterasu's fire, or in other words, the Amaterasu's fire was Uchiha Kira's Susanoo weapon. However, this is a little tricky. Although you are not afraid of Amaterasu, it is still very annoying to be burned by it. Uchiha Kirara controlled the 3rd stage of Susanoo and punched at Kyoji again. This time, Kyoji finally moved to avoid it. After all, he didn't want to be contaminated by the fire of Amaterasu again. Before, it was because he was excited by the sight of prey and wanted to experience the power of Amaterasu. It could be said that he was hit by Uchiha Kira's Amaterasu on purpose. But now, he has already experienced it, so there is no need to be burned by Amaterasu again. After Kingxi took a few steps back, he immediately jumped into the air and flew into the air again. He is already an Otsutsuki with the ability to fly. Although he is not used to this combat mode, since he already has the ability to fly, he should make full use of it. So, one chased and the other hid. Uchiha Kirara was helpless and furious. He wanted desperately to control Susanoo to knock down Kyoji who was flying around him, but he was powerless. Although it was the first time that Kyoji used the ability to fly in battle, as he became more and more proficient in the ability, except for a few times in the beginning when he was almost hit by the huge Susanoo, Uchiha Kira didn't even touch the corner of Kyoji's clothes once, even though his Susanoo was covered with the fire of Amaterasu. Kingxi danced in the air, constantly experimenting with the various moves he got from Otsutsuki Hamura. For him, Uchiha Kira's 3rd stage Susanoo was a natural experimental target. Soon, 20 minutes passed, and Uchiha Kira became more and more anxious. He could feel that his body was almost reaching its limit, and his vision was becoming more and more blurred. By this time, Kyoji was basically familiar with Tensei's current combat mode, and had also mastered all the moves taught by Otsutsuki Hamura. So, it was time to end the battle. This is also a good opportunity to try out the Otsutsuki Ishaiki moves that I haven't been able to use before. After dodging Susanoo's giant fist with ease again, Kingxi fell to the ground, then flew high again, gathering chakra at the soles of his feet in the way he remembered from Otsutsuki Ishaiki, and kicked forward against the surging and burning Amaterasu fire. I wonder how good your Susanoo's defense is. Earth-cracking feat. I couldn't find the name of this move that can crush Sasuke's perfect form of Susanoo with one kick, so I used the name of Ishaiki Otsutsuki's move in Ultimate Storm 4. Uchiha Kirara was overjoyed when he saw this. Before, Kyoji had been relying on his high-speed mobility to make all his attacks miss, but now, he was delivering it to his doorstep. So he controlled Susanoo's fist that was burning with the fire of Amaterasu and hit hard at Kingxi who was kicking towards him. Kingxi's flying kick did not cause any waves, no explosion, and no fluctuations. Only the slight sound of shattering echoed in the battlefield. Susanoo was pierced through by Kingxi's kick, and then he kicked Uchiha Kira in the abdomen, who was originally protected by Susanoo. Impossible. Uchiha Kirara didn't even have time to react and was hit hard again. He never expected that the Susanoo, which their Uchiha clan was so proud of and was hailed as the power of God, would be shattered by a single blow. Chapter 208. After rolling on the ground for hundreds of times, Uchiha Kira finally stopped. The severe pain all over his body made him gasp several times. And this is the result of King C controlling the power a little bit. If the attack power was really at full capacity, I'm afraid that with just one kick, Uchiha Kira would go straight to see the Six-Path Sage. You know, in Otsutsuki Ishaiki's memory, this is a move that can directly crush the complete form of Susanoo, not to mention just a third-stage Susanoo. At this moment, Uchiha Kira felt as if his body was falling apart, and every muscle was in piercing pain. It was due to the strain put on his body by the long-term use of Susanoo, as well as the injury caused by Seiji's kick just now. But Uchiha Kira still forced himself to stand up, his scarlet Mangeki Sharingan revealing boundless hatred as he stared at Seiji in the distance. The third stage of Susanoo appeared again and wrapped him in it. He didn't believe that Seiji could use such a powerful move a second time. At this moment, King C looked particularly elegant. He completed a perfect 360 degrees somersault in the air, and then landed lightly on the ground. Kiyoshi was extremely satisfied with Otsutsuki Ishaiki's earth-splitting kick. He was already looking forward to his next meeting with Uchiha Madara. Old man, wait for death. However, let's end this battle first. King C looked at Uchiha Kira in the distance and thought calmly that he was already familiar with and proficient in the new techniques he had learned, so Uchiha Kira was no longer a target. King C exhaled lightly, then quickly flew high into the sky. At the same time, a large amount of chakra continuously flowed out of his body and continuously gathered towards the position of his hands. Suspended in mid-air, King C looked down at the Susanoo below, chakra surging wildly in his hands. Then he aimed at the position of Susanoo and slapped down with both palms at the same time. Have you ever heard of a palm technique that falls from the sky? Double God Air Attack. Two huge fists formed by chakra appeared out of thin air, with endless power, like two meteors, falling from the sky, and smashing down on Susanoo at an astonishing speed, like a torrent, surging and unstoppable. Boom! When the chakra fist collided with Susanoo, the entire battlefield was shaken. The huge impact force caused the surrounding air to distort violently, forming shock waves visible to the naked eye. A huge roar resounded through the sky, and Susanoo began to disintegrate under the terrifying attack power of the Divine Sky Strike. It could not even hold on for a second and was shattered in an instant. When the smoke and dust produced by the collision dissipated, Uchiha Kira lay powerlessly in the deep pit created by Shenkong's attack, his body trembling slightly, his eyes tightly closed, blood constantly flowing from the corners of his mouth, and he had already lost the strength to resist. King C slowly descended and finally stopped above the deep pit. He looked down at Uchiha Kira below with a cold and calm look in his eyes. Looking at Uchiha Kira lying on the ground like a dead dog, King C felt no pity at all. The kindness deep in his heart is only directed towards those whom he regards as his own people. In this real and cruel ninja world, you kill me and I kill you. This situation of constant fighting for one's own interests has lasted for nearly 1,000 years and has become the unchanging main theme of the ninja world. When the wheel of history entered the era of ninja villages, this struggle for interests evolved from fighting between families to large-scale fighting between villages and countries. In the ninja world where strength is respected, only one's own powerful strength is the eternal and only truth. Therefore, even though the Uchiha clan, like the previous Uzumaki clan, are descendants of the Six Paths and can barely be considered distant relatives of Seiji, the Uchiha clan is, after all, a family in Konoha village that stands on the opposite side of the Hidden Mist village, and is fundamentally different from the Uzumaki clan. Not to mention that saving that part of the Uzumaki clan can bring huge benefits to the Hidden Mist village and Seiji himself. Therefore, King C had no intention of holding back against Uchiha Kira. Kill him, the Mangeki Sharingan will still belong to Kiyoshi. We just have to make sure he doesn't destroy his eyes before he dies. As for our good friend from the Hidden Mist village, Hokage assistant Danzo Shimura, I have to say sorry. After all, you didn't tell me that this great elder of the Uchiha clan has the Mangeki Sharingan, which is more advanced than the three Megatama Sharingan. This Mangeki Sharingan, it is destined to be with me, Otsutsuki Seiji. King C slowly raised his hand, and the chakra gathered in his palm. All things are attracted by heaven. A powerful gravitational force gushed out from the palm of his hand, sucking Uchiha Kira over. He was ready to give Uchiha Kira the final blow, kill him completely and then get his own Mangeki Sharingan. However, at this moment, when King C's right hand grabbed Uchiha Kira's neck, Uchiha Kira suddenly opened his eyes that had been tightly closed, and the pentagonal windmill pattern in his Mangekyo Sharingan was spinning wildly, flashing a strange scarlet light. Illusion, Sharingan. Kingsley's face changed and he was shocked. He didn't expect that Uchiha Kirira's pretending to be unconscious could even deceive the Samsara Eye. But in a moment, Kingsley calmed down again. It was just an illusion, so it was okay. Invisible pupil power fluctuations invaded Kingsley's brain, and then, nothing happened. The Rinnegan has the ability to resist and rebound illusions, and it is an eye of the same level as the Samsara Eye, not to mention that Seiji's Rinnegan is equivalent to the Megatama Samsara Eye when it matures. It's just an ordinary illusion of the Mangekyo Sharingan, and it's not even the eye technique of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Who is he looking down on? Uchiha Kirira waited expectantly for his illusion to take effect, but what he waited for was only for Seiji to pierce his heart with the yin-yang release black rod he took out from Takamaji Ehara space. At the moment his heart was pierced, Uchiha Kirira was still expecting his illusion to work so that he could counterattack against Kyoshi at the last moment. After all, after fighting for such a long time, he had never used the Sharingan's illusion on Kyoshi, but regarded it as his last trump card. Because, in his understanding, unless it is an illusion type of eye technique, Kingji will never be able to resist the illusion from the Mangekyo Sharingan, and it is obvious that Kingji's eye technique is not an illusion type, otherwise he would definitely use it in battle. However, the asymmetry of information made the illusion that Uchiha Kirira used as his last trump card ineffective. Chapter 209. Uchiha Kirira opened his mouth but couldn't say anything, and died with a heart full of resentment and anger. The current great elder of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Kirira, has passed away. Kingsley looked at the body of Uchiha Kirira, who had lost his breath, in his hand, and the corners of his mouth behind the mask curled up slightly. The Mangekyo Sharingan was obtained. After taking out the pair of Mangekyo Sharingan from the eye sockets of the corpse, Kyoshi immediately placed them in a glass bottle filled with nutrient solution and stored it in the Takamaji Ehara space, and then he threw Uchiha Kirira's body on the ground. Kingji pointed his right hand at Uchiha Kirira's body, and a powerful chakra wave emerged from his palm. A grey bone spur emitting the breath of death slowly emerged from his palm. Corpse bone vein, ash bone technique. The bone spur shot out and pierced into Uchiha Kirira's body. In the blink of an eye, the body began to collapse from the place where the bone spur pierced, as if eroded by a mysterious force, and the range expanded rapidly, spreading to the whole body in an instant. In the end, Uchiha Kirira's body completely turned into a handful of broken ashes. Then, Kingsley performed a simple wind-style ninjutsu to blow the remaining ashes into the air, causing them to completely disappear into thin air. The grey bone technique, which has no negative effects on itself, is a great helper in killing and robbing, and can be used to clean up the aftermath. Killing the ash bones together belongs to the bloodline network. Kingsley has not yet reached this level, so he still uses the weakened version of the ash bone technique. On the other side, 3 members of the root, A, B, and C, besieged 2 Uchiha clan Jonin, Uchiha Sho and Uchiha Shun. Although the 3 of them cooperated with each other very well, they were facing the Uchiha clan's senior ninjas, and 2 of them had 3 Megatama Sharingan. After a fierce battle, the 2 root ninjas codenamed A and C, at the cost of their lives, created a chance for the root ninja of the Aberame clan codenamed B to make a fatal kill. They finally killed Uchiha Sho and Uchiha Shun, and successfully obtained their 3 Megatama Sharingan. Following the direction of the chakra fluctuations he sensed, Kingsley, who had already finished the battle, turned his gaze and happened to see the defeat of Uchiha Sho and Uchiha Shun. He sneered with disdain. Kingsley did not care about it anymore and directly used the eye technique Takamaji Ehara to leave. Kyoshi did not choose to go back to the village directly, but went to an alternate dimension first, sent the corpse of the Otsutsuki clan brought back from the moon, and absorbed a small amount of chakra from the body of the 10 Tails again. Then, he returned to the village. Inside the Mizukage's office, the 3rd Mizukage Bing and the Elder Master were discussing the future development direction of the Hidden Mist Village. After all, they now had too many good things in their hands. Thanks to the fact that Kyoshi was confirmed as the successor to the Mizukage at an early stage, the policies of the 3rd Mizukage Bing in recent years have not been as radical as before. As a result, Yuanchi, who had different political views from Bing and had not been in charge of the affairs before, has gradually begun to re-participate in the affairs of the village in recent years. Suddenly, in the perception of the 3rd generation Mizukage Bing, a faint fluctuation appeared in a certain space in the Mizukage's office, as if a stone was thrown into the calm water surface, causing ripples, and then the faint fluctuation quickly spread out like a butterfly effect. At the location that Bing sensed, the entire space began to distort and deform. Xiao Qingxi is back. Bing interrupted Master Yuan and said, with a hint of joy in his tone. When Master Yuan was suddenly interrupted by Bing, he was stunned at first, and then a smile immediately appeared on his old face. Although he was much weaker than Bing in strength, with Bing's reminder, he was still able to keenly notice the abnormality in the space inside the Mizuki's office. So, the two of them tacitly stopped their original conversation and turned their bodies towards the direction where the space in the Mizuki's office was constantly fluctuating. The next moment, Qingxi's blurry figure appeared in front of the two of them, and then gradually became clear, as if walking out of the void, and slowly appeared in the Mizuki's office. How is it? Master Yuan asked. Qingxi would be gone for several days. Although they were all fully confident in Qingxi's ability, they were also afraid that some unknown changes would occur. Haha! Lord Mizukage! Grandpa! Qingxi laughed heartily. At this time, he had taken off his mask and an irrepressible smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. This time the harvest is far beyond our expectations. This trip is really the right one. Oh! Bing was a little confused, wondering what kind of gains could make Qing Si, who was already so powerful, so happy. But then, he seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed. Could it be that? Master Yuan also looked excited, as if he had guessed something. That's right. Qingxi confirmed their guess, it's the Mangeki Sharingan. Bing exhaled heavily, then burst into laughter, I really didn't expect it. After Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Izuna, the Uchiha clan actually gave birth to the Mangeki Sharingan again, and it was obtained by us in Kirigakure, ha 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 ha. Yeah, I didn't expect it either. I thought I could only get a pair of 3 Megatama Sharingan, but I didn't expect that the great elder of the Uchiha clan awakened the Mangeki Sharingan at some point, and has never revealed it. Qingxi continued. The master also came back to his senses from his excitement at this time, and continued with Qingxi's words, this should be the first pair of Mangeki Sharingan leaked from the Uchiha clan. It should be. As far as I remember, there was indeed an example of the 3 Megatama Sharingan being obtained by outsiders and successfully transplanted, but in the end it was successfully recovered by the Uchiha clan. However, I have never heard of the Mangeki Sharingan being obtained by anyone else. Bing thought about it carefully and then answered. Do you want to try transplantation? Asked the master. Let me study it first, and then hand it over to Dean Ringo and Sister Chinano. Qingxi thought for a moment, then denied it. After all, this is a Mangeki Sharingan that is much more powerful than the ordinary Sharingan. Ordinary ninjas may not be able to afford it at all. Okay. Let's do it. The third Mizukage Bing made the final decision, and the master also nodded to show that he agreed with Qingxi's opinion. Chapter 210. After coming out of the Mizuki's office, Kyoji went to the Anbu's headquarters and handed the chakra radio and ear-hooked chakra phone he had taken from Sanzu Amato to Ken. Things that are already ready for mass production should be popularized in the village. Afterwards, having finished all his work, Qingxi walked back to his home. However, when Kyoji returned home, he was surprised to find that his elder sister Chinano and younger brother Yagura were already in his house. When the three of them met, Qingxi saw that his little brother Yagura was winking at him madly, and Qingxi's face instantly darkened. Hey man, can you please not take me with you when you get scolded? As soon as I come back from this mission, do I have to face the wrath of my elder sister with you? Yagura, are you a human too? It turned out that after CG ran away last time, Yagura thought hard and found a reason, successfully deceived Chino Kizuna, and then secretly became the Three Tails Jinchuriki, but he never had the chance to tell Chino Kizuna about this. Then, he, CG, and the third Mizukage Bing headed to the moon. Originally, Yagura thought that after returning from the moon, he would bring CG along to tell Chino Kizuna about this, but he never expected. When he came back from the moon, he learned bad news from Anbu Chankan. Chino Kizuna once asked Ken about Yagura's whereabouts. After all, after becoming the Three Tails Jinchuriki, Yagura had not yet had the time to officially resign as the captain of the first team of the Anbu. Ken, on the other hand, thought that Chino Kizuna knew about the Three Tails Jinchuriki, so he didn't think much about it and sold Yagura out completely. This stirred up a hornet's nest, and Chino Kizuna exploded instantly. It would have been fine if CG and Yagura didn't discuss such a big matter as Jinchuriki with her, but they didn't even tell her. There is no problem for Kyoji because he went directly to river country to carry out the mission and was not in the hidden mist village, but Yagura is in trouble because he is about to face Chino Hojiki, who is full of anger. So Yagura asked everyone who knew about his return not to tell Chino Kizuna that he had returned to the village, but he ignored Seiji's 3 disciples. As Kyoji's sister, the relationship between Chino Hojiki and the 3 little ones has made rapid progress during this period of time. Among them, Konan began to learn from Chino Hojiki how to enhance the ability to control chakra, while Yahiko and Nagato also learned the water-style ninjutsu from Chino Hojiki. One day later, when Nagato was practicing water jutsu, he inadvertently integrated the perception ability of the Rinnegan into the water jutsu and successfully performed a small-scale Rain Tiger Freedom Jutsu. Coincidentally, the place where he practiced ninjutsu was not far from the ancestral home of the Gojira clan. So, Yagura was exposed. Nagato, who sensed Yagura, didn't think there was anything wrong at the time. But on the next day, when Nagato heard Chino Kyoji complaining about their hands-off teacher Kyoji and her irresponsible squad leader Yagura, who had not returned to the village for a long time, he felt something was wrong. After hesitating for a long time, Nagato finally decided to tell them what he felt yesterday. After all, compared to Yagura, he was now closer to Chino Kizuna, who often taught them. When Chino Kizuna learned that Yagura had returned to the village but had not appeared, she immediately understood what Yagura was thinking, so her anger, which was already overflowing, had reached the sky, and it could be called the Pro-Max anger value. The next day, Chino Kizuna came to the tribe's territory with great momentum, ready to arrest Yagura on the spot, who had learned to hide from her. When Yagura saw Chino no Hojiki suddenly appear at home, he was stunned. He really couldn't figure out how Chino no Hojiki knew that he was back. But these are no longer important. Yagura, who has been caught, hung his head, ready to face the storm from Chino Kizuna, but at this moment, he sensed the chakra aura of Seiji. After becoming a perfect Jinkraki, Yagura gained an extremely powerful perception ability with the blessing of the 3 tails Isabu. Although he could not achieve the same ultra-large scale and accurate perception of malicious intent as the 9 tails Jinkraki, he was still able to cover the entire mist village with his perception and distinguish the chakra aura of different ninjas. Therefore, as soon as King C came out of the Mizu cage building covered by the barrier, he was sensed by Yagura. This gave Yagura his last straw. With Kyoji present, he could at least help him share some of Chino Kizuna's firepower. So he first decisively admitted his mistake from the bottom of his heart, then sold out Kyoji directly, told Chino Hojumi the news of Kyoji's return, and then went to Kyoji's house with Chino Hojumi, waiting for Kyoji to come home. So, when Kyoji returned home, what he saw was Chino Hojumi, who was extremely angry, and Yagura Karitachi, who was fidgeting and twisting her body in her chair and glaring at him wildly. Ching Si was silent for a moment, and finally broke the silence by speaking, "How about you two talk first? I'll go out first." "Okay." Chino Kizuna answered directly. "No." Yagura howled in pain. "Even though what he did was not right, you are still my brother after all, please save me." King C was silent again. At this time, he had connected everything together and understood that Yagura wanted him to share some of the firepower, but he really didn't want to face his sister Chino, who was full of anger. He had seen his sister Chino's rage before. It can be said that she was so terrifying. You know, one of the 2 most terrifying times for a woman is when she is your lover and she happens to be angry. A lover who is angry is even more difficult to control than a frightened donkey. The only difference between a woman at this time and a terrorist is that a terrorist can still have some room for negotiation, but an angry woman has no room for negotiation at all. As for the other one, she is still angry, but this angry protagonist is replaced by a mother or a sister. I believe that those who have experienced the iron fist of love will understand how terrifying they are at this time. The mother is better, at least she has some sense of propriety, but if it is the sister, then congratulations in advance. Congratulations on triggering the hidden copy, the difficulty is super doubled. After all, when a sister educates her brother, she always takes action and never talks nonsense.